All right. Good morning, everyone. I would like to call this meeting to order. May we have a roll call, please?
Callie Mayfam,
Callie Mae Pham, public member, present.
Tanya Fairley,
Present.
Anthony Bertram,
Present.
Megan Ellis. Megan Ellis is absent. Kelly Funk,
Present.
Dr. Yolanda Jimenez,
Present.
Paulette Kavanaugh,
Present.
Tamika Miller. Tamika Miller is absent. Danielle Munoz. Danielle Munoz is absent. Steve Weeks.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Welcome to everyone in the audience today. First on our agenda, we're actually going to do our petition for reinstatement hearings. We have two today, and then we will be having a closed session. After the closed session, we will be reconvening with open session and have the regular meeting. So just a kind of a preview of where we're going this morning. So moving on to agenda item number 2, petition for reinstatement hearings, I will turn it over to our administrative law judge.
Thank you. Good morning. Is Ms. Bullock here present? All right, Ms. Bullock, please step forward. Yes, please. Take a seat.
Speak to the public who answers any question, just make sure to press here. It has to be green.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
All right, Ms. Bullock, let me just confirm a few things before we begin. Do you have an attorney with you? You'll need to speak to the mic.
No.
All right, just confirming, it's all right that you don't have an attorney. I just want to make sure you're aware that you could have retained an attorney at your own expense for this proceeding. Were you aware of that?
Yes.
Okay, all right. And you have decided to proceed on your own behalf, correct?
Yes.
All right. You may want to just keep it on.
I just did.
All right.
And maybe move this way. She's not, I think it's a little better for space.
All right. So we're going to be on the record in a moment, not yet. And that record is the record of what happens for your hearing portion of today. But before we go on the record, I just wanted to give you some reminders and some advisements on how today will go. Okay. So we are here on your petition. And what that means in general is the person who is petitioning has the burden to prove that they should get what they're asking for.
Okay.
So ordinarily speaking, that person goes first in presenting the evidence in a proceeding like this. But in this case, I'm going to ask Ms. Bright to present the evidence first, and that's so I and the board can have the context and background for your licensure.
Okay.
And then you will go second after that presentation. Does that make sense, Ms.
That
Bullock?
makes sense.
Okay. And although you're going second, I just want to remind you that you still do have the burden to prove your case, all right?
Okay.
Okay. And we will be assisted by a court reporter this morning. She will be writing down what we are all saying at any given time. And so to assist her in doing that, let's make sure that we're not talking over each other. So I know just now we're having a conversation. It's really easy to start answering before the other person is done. So let's just all make an effort to make sure that the person speaking is completely done speaking before we start replying. Does that make sense, Ms. Bullock?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Now, let me tell you about some of the rights that you have in this proceeding before we start. You have the right to an attorney, which we just discussed. You have the right to call witnesses. Do you have any witnesses you'd like to call today?
No.
Okay, that's perfectly fine. You have the right to cross-examine any witnesses brought by Ms. Bright if she brought any. You have the right to submit documents, which I believe you have, as I understand. You have the right to receive and review documents that Ms. Bright may have provided to you, and you have the right to make objections. And that's just if you have any concern at all, just say objection, and we'll take a pause to discuss your concern. Does that make sense, Ms. Bullock?
Yes, it does.
All right. I know I've gone through a lot of information just now. Do you have any questions at all before we start?
No, I don't.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Bright, anything on your end before we start?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Madam Court Reporter? We are on the record before the Board of Barbering and Cosmetology, Department of Consumer Affairs, in the matter of the petition for reinstatement of, Athena Bullock. The agency case number is BC-25-9297, and the OAH case number is 2024-120553. Today is February 10th, 2025. The time is 10:08 a.m. This is the date and time set for the hearing in this matter, and we are appearing in person. My name is Patrice Huber. I'm an administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings, or OAH. I've been assigned to hear this matter with the board, and I am sitting here with a quorum of the board. At this time, I'll take the appearances of the parties, starting with Ms. Bright.
Megan Bright, Deputy Attorney General. I'm appearing on behalf of the Attorney General pursuant to Business and Professions Code Section 11522, representing the people of the state of California. I'm here to assist the Administrative Law Judge and the Board in fact-finding. My role is not adversarial, but is intended to protect the public interest. I'm here to ensure that the Administrative Law Judge and the Board have adequate information from which to make a decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bright. And Ms. Bullock, would you please introduce yourself now that we're on the record?
Athena Bullock.
All right, thank you. And we are being assisted by our court reporter, Ms. Ramirez. Would you like to state your appearance? Or would you like me to do it for you? All right, we're being assisted by Leanne Ramirez. Her CSR number is 12039. Thank you, Ms. Ramirez. So before we went on the record, Ms. Bullock, just reminders of what we've just gone through. Let me confirm you are representing yourself this morning. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, and you are aware that you could have retained an attorney at your own expense?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Now, let me remind you of the rights that you have in this proceeding. In addition to the right to an attorney, you have the right to call witnesses. You have the right to cross-examine or question witnesses. You have the right to testify on your own behalf. I think I failed to mention that before we went on the record. So if you wanted to speak to me and the board directly today, you have the right to do that. You have the right to submit documents, which, as I understand, you have done. You have the right to receive and review documents, and you have the right to make objections. Do you have any questions so far, Ms. Bullock?
No, no questions.
All right, so let me go over the sequence of events for your hearing. We are here on your petition, which means that you have the burden to prove that you are entitled to what you are seeking. And ordinarily, that person with the burden goes first in presenting the evidence. But in this case, I will be asking Ms. Bright to present first so the board and I can receive information on the background and context of your licensure. And then when she is done, you will have an opportunity to present your evidence. Does that make sense, Ms. Bullock?
It does.
All right. Any questions?
No.
All right.
Right here. Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And any questions before we start, Ms. Bullock?
No questions.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Bright, go ahead.
So starting with the petition packet, what has been previously labeled as attachment 1 is the petition for reinstatement dated October 2nd, 2024. We ask that attachment 1 or exhibit 1 be admitted for all purposes.
All right. Ms. Bullock, do you have a copy of those exhibits before you?
Yes, I believe it's this one.
All right. So we're looking at exhibit 1. Let me know when you've turned to that.
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. It appears to be your petition.
Okay.
Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any objection or concern with exhibit 1 being part of the evidence?
No.
All right. Exhibit 1 is admitted.
What has been previously marked as exhibit 2 or attachment 2 is petitioner's supporting documents, which generally consists of a resume, personal statement, 3 letters of reference, 2 certificates of completion, 2 course informations. We ask that petitioner's supporting documents be admitted for all purposes.
All right. Ms. Bullock, we're now turning to exhibit 2. Are you able to locate that in your packet?
Yes.
All right. Do you have any objection or concern with exhibit 2, which appear to be your supporting documents?
No, no objections.
All right. Exhibit 2 is admitted.
And what has been previously marked as exhibit 3 or attachment 3 is the hearing confirmation form. We ask that the confirmation form be admitted for jurisdictional purposes.
All right. Ms. Bullock, now we're looking at exhibit 3. Are you able to locate that in your packet?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. So exhibit 3 is being offered for jurisdictional purposes only. Is that right, Ms. Bright?
Yes.
Okay. So let me explain what that means before I ask if you have any concerns. Okay. So for jurisdictional purposes means that if I accept that this is part of the evidence, I would consider it really only procedurally. So it shows that a hearing was set for today. That's all I would consider it for. So sometimes documents may include factual allegations. I don't know if this does specifically, but say it does. Just because it's admitted for jurisdictional purposes does not mean that I automatically accept as true any factual allegations in this document. That's kind of a long explanation. Do you have any questions on that?
Could you say that one more time?
Sure. So for jurisdictional purposes is a limitation on the way that I would view this document. So in general, when the court receives an exhibit, it receives it for any purpose that the person offering it may want it for. So for example, a document may have a statement from someone saying the sky is blue, for example. If I admit that document, I may consider it for the truth of the statement, the sky is blue. So to the extent that there are any statements like that in this document, which is just a hearing confirmation, I would not take those statements to be true just because this document is admitted. I would consider this document in a limited purpose, and that is just to show me that a hearing was set for today.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Now, do you have any objection or concern with Exhibit 3 for jurisdictional purposes only?
No objections.
All right, Exhibit 3 is so admitted.
And what has been previously marked as Exhibit 4 or Attachment 4 is the Notice of Hearing and Proof of Service. These are similarly offered for jurisdictional purposes.
All right, Ms. Bullock, we're looking at Exhibit 4. Are you able to turn to that?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I am.
Okay. Do you need a reminder on jurisdictional purposes? Do you recall it?
No objections on the
All right, thank you.
jurisdictional.
Exhibit 4 is admitted for jurisdictional purposes.
What has been previously marked as Exhibit 5 or Attachment 5 is the license certification. We ask that Exhibit 5 be admitted for all purposes.
All right, we're looking at Exhibit 5, Ms. Bullock. Are you able to follow along?
Yeah, I'm able to follow along.
Okay, any objection to Exhibit 5?
No.
All right, Exhibit 5 is admitted.
And what has been previously marked as Exhibit 6 or Attachment 6 is the previous decision and order in this matter. We ask that Exhibit 6 be admitted for all purposes.
All right, we're looking at Exhibit 6, Ms. Bullock. Are you able to follow along?
Yes, no objection on this one.
All right, thank you. Exhibit 6 is admitted.
At this time, I'd like to provide a brief background of the case here today. On or about January 18th, 2012, the board issued cosmetologist license number KK533783 to petitioner. On or about January 13th, 2014, the board filed an accusation seeking revocation of petitioner's license. The accusation alleged that petitioner violated Business and Professions Code Section 7404, Subdivision A1, unprofessional conduct for incompetence or gross negligence. The underlying conduct is as follows. On or about November 17th, 2012, victim YS went to petitioner at Petite Hair and Nail Salon for cosmetologist services of a relaxer touch-up on her hair. Petitioner was found to be incompetent or grossly negligent in performing the consultation and service, resulting in approximately 90% of YS's hair melting or burning and falling off. On or about June 17th, 2014, the board issued a default decision and order revoking petitioner's license. That decision became effective July 17th, 2014. On or about October 1st, 2024, petitioner filed a petition for reinstatement of her license. Because the burden's on petitioner, I have no further statement at this time, but reserve the right to question petitioner.
Thank you, Ms. Bright. All right, Ms. Bullock, it's now your turn to present the evidence. Did you want to speak to me and the board directly about your case?
Sure. I mean, the only evidence that I have is the one that's already in the packet. Is that you want me to show it to you, or just want me to tell you what happened?
Well,
I'm not sure how this part goes. That's
it's fine. Those are good questions. The way that you present your case is completely up to you. So if you feel that you've submitted everything, that's fine. You don't have to testify, but be aware that if you don't testify, Ms. Bright has the right to call you as a witness and ask you questions. And so it's up to you whether you'd like to speak directly or just take questions from Ms. Bright. How would you like to proceed?
Speak directly.
Okay, so let me swear you in so I can consider what you say testimony. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you will give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, you may put your hand down. Please state and spell your full name for us.
Athena Bullock is ATHENA. Bullock is BULLOCK.
All right, thank you, Ms. Bullock. Just a reminder that we do have a court reporter, so let's just make sure we're speaking clearly, loudly, and slowly so that
Okay.
she can follow along what we're saying.
Okay.
And you will be receiving questions likely from Ms. Bright, and you may receive questions from the board as well and from me. So just make sure that the question is completely stated before you start answering. So let's just try our best not to interrupt each other. Okay, Ms. Bullock?
Okay.
All right. So we do, like you said and identified for us, we do have a copy of your petition and your supporting documents. And so to the extent that we already have the information, you don't need to repeat it, but this is the time and opportunity to highlight anything for us that you'd like to draw our attention to specifically. This is the time for that. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
All right. So whenever you're ready, go ahead.
Okay, so when I was at the Petite Hair and Nail Salon, I was supposed to be under the owner's wing, I guess you would say. I had just got out of cosmetology school, so she said she would just help me out, show me the ropes and things like that. There was the call that the client had called the salon. She said she needed a relaxer retouch. The owner said she was going to do it, but she needed to make a run. So she said, when she comes in, just do the relaxer retouch. By the time you're almost done, I should be back. So I kind of just had that in mind. I was a little nervous, kind of had that in mind. I have a client and it's like my first one with like a relaxer retouch. And I'm like, kind of just nerves are everywhere. So she gets in and I noticed it wasn't platinum blonde hair, but it was blonde, you could say. So I asked her, how did she achieve the blonde color in her hair? She said she used high color. Now I'm familiar with high color. It's a coloring line at Sally's Beauty Supply. You can basically color your hair to achieve a lighter color without using bleach. So when she said she used the high color and she didn't use bleach to achieve the blonde, that was my mistake right there. I basically just took her word for what she said and was like, okay, you used high color. I know about this product. You didn't use bleach. It should be okay for me to do a relaxer retouch. So when I proceeded the relaxer retouch, I let it sit for probably about 5-10 minutes. And then I wanted to do like a test strain to see how it was coming out. That's when I noticed her hair was falling out. So we went to the shampoo bowl, rinsed all of the relaxer out, and after we seen how much came out, it was a big deal at that point. So um that's when the owner had came in and basically her response was, I wasn't here, that's on y'all. And she just basically saying, I was going to sue the salon, I'm going to sue the salon. And she just, so now they're going at it and it's kind of making me uncomfortable. So I was just trying to figure out a way to resolve the issue with her. So we went to the beauty supply store. She was supposed to get human hair because the agreement we made was I was going to make a wig for her. So I'm going to make a wig for her, and I was just going to help bring her natural hair back to its original state and have it growing back. She didn't want to get the hair that I originally told her because she said it cost too much, but I was trying to explain the versatility in one wig that she needed. It needed to be human hair, not synthetic. So she finally got the hair. No, she did not get the hair. I apologize. She did not get the hair. She said she needed to think about which route she wanted to go. So about a couple weeks after, she said she wanted to do the wig and just to bring her hair back to its natural state. So our agreement was a wig was going to be made and we were going to see what the course of her natural hair was within that first 4 months. So I don't know what happened after that, but she had ended up calling me again. And she basically said she didn't like that agreement. She basically wanted to have me make wigs whenever she just wanted one done, basically, just at her but how do I say this? Just basically at her demand. That's not the word, but she basically was saying, whenever I need a wig done, I just want you to do it. I don't want to pay for the hair. I don't want to do anything. I just want you to make it. If you cannot do that, then that's when I'm going to take it to the court. I tried to keep reasoning with her in other ways, but she just wasn't having it, which I understand, but I just wasn't comfortable. I felt like I was taken advantage of. And when it came to me coming here to get my license reinstated, I was just in a different mindset. I was embarrassed. I was hard on myself. I felt like I wasn't going to get my license back. So it was a lot of mental insecurities that I was going through at that time. And then I just basically blame myself. But now I feel like mentally I'm stronger. I'm ready. I know what I did as a mistake and I know how to prevent it from happening again. And I just want to do what I need to do to get my license back so that I could further my career.
All right, thank you, Ms. Bullock. Ms. Bright, any questions?
Yes.
Mhm.
Ms. Bullock, what do you currently do for work?
Right now, I do hospice and I am a braider.
Okay. Do you have any other professional licenses?
Not just for the hospice and the
She needs to speak into the mic.
sorry, just for CNA and HHA, I have licenses.
Okay. Um, and did you inform those licensing agencies of your prior discipline?
Yes.
And so your license was revoked for incompetence or gross negligence. Is that correct?
Yes.
And as you testified, that was because the relaxer touch-up service resulted in 90% of your client's hair falling out, right?
Yes.
So what would you do differently to assure the board that this will not happen again in the future?
Strand test.
Can you elaborate, please?
I would do a strand test in the back. So basically, I would just get like a small section in the back of the client's hair, and for that service is a relaxer retouch. So I would just put the relaxer retouch at the root, just in a little section to see how it would handle it. And after a couple minutes, after I would rinse it out, I would have seen right there that it was a no-go.
And you submitted 3 letters of reference as part of your supporting documents. Were those who provided the letters aware of the reason your license was revoked prior to writing the letters?
Yes.
Um, and why do you want your cosmetologist license reinstated?
I want my cosmetology license reinstated so that I am able to do hair. I've been experimenting a lot with making hair products. I've made a moisturizer and a shampoo so far. So right now, I just want to legally have my license, so I'm not like doing it like I'm not supposed to. You know what I mean? Like I want to do it the correct way.
And so when's the last time you practiced as a cosmetologist?
Okay. So when you say that, are you referring to like chemicals?
Anything that would require a cosmetologist license?
I do braids.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that falls under the same thing, no. If that doesn't fall under there, because I haven't had my license, I haven't been doing anything that I shouldn't be doing. So I haven't been doing anything that has to do with chemicals since I had my license revoked.
And what have you done to stay up to date on current cosmetology practices?
Watching tutorials or taking classes that people will have at the salons or at Cosmo Pro for anything like that, or going to hair shows. Hair shows has a lot of classes as well.
And what have you learned from those classes?
I learned a lot of things. I learned for the natural hair, um, moisturizer is what's really needed for the hair to not be so dry and damaging. I always thought it was oil. So that's something that I learned. Another thing that I don't think I necessarily learned it, but it was a great reminder when it comes to chemicals is doing a strand test. Um, another great reminder that I needed was to do a thorough what it- what is it called again when you consultation. A thorough consultation at the beginning is something that I learned how to do more in depth. So now I know that instead of just going off of memories, to have like each client to have their own card. So as I'm doing the services, I can write everything down. Therefore, I won't miss anything as the services continue.
If the board was to reinstate your license, but then place you on probation to make sure you're complying with your license requirements, would you be open to that?
Yes.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Bright. All right, let me just go down the line with the board to see if they have any questions. They'll start from my right. Ms. Kavanaugh, any questions?
No, I don't have any questions, but I will say it's commendable the work you do in hospice because I know that's really difficult work.
Thank
so
you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you. And Dr. Jimenez?
No questions.
All right, Mr. Weeks?
No questions.
All right, Ms. Pham?
Thank you. Thank you for being here this morning, Ms. Bullock, and
Thank you.
sharing your experience with us. I noticed in one of your letters of reference from a Cassandra Cranding, it mentions their willingness to kind of help supervise you for any kind of chemical services. Can you just tell us more about that? Have you discussed that? Do you guys have a plan in place, or go ahead?
I do know with Cassandra, we can have a plan in place. At that time, when we were speaking about the whole situation that happened, she said that she is willing to help with the color or just any chemical, like for me to come in the salon or just hands-on or anything like that. We don't have one in place yet, but I do still keep in contact with her, and I know that we can have one in place. It's just getting the day and the times and what chemicals that I need to brush up on.
So related to that, if you're in a situation again where you're in need of more mentorship or more help, how will you handle it differently than you did back in 2014? If you need additional help or you feel like you don't know, you're not quite sure what you're doing,
In the middle of a service.
or before, or yeah, what's your
Before a service, I would say I would do a lot of research until I could feel confident, whether that's looking at other classes, tutorials, or calling people. It's just a matter of getting all the research done that I need for me to feel confident. Um, if it's if I'm in the middle of a service and I'm starting to feel like I don't know what I'm doing, I would kind of pretty much do the same thing. I will let the client know, hey, yeah, I'm kind of stumped. Let me see how I could, um, go around it to where everybody is happy. I do know that I have people that I can call that are very knowledgeable. So I think that's the route I would take, is to use my lifeline.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Thank you. Ms. Fairley?
Yes, can you hear me? Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
I was reading your your packet, and I realized that at the time that this happened, you had your license for about 1 year. How long had you been working in a salon up until this incident happened?
That was my first time in the salon.
First time in the salon?
Mhm,
Okay.
mhm.
Um,
And I want to say that was like the second or third day or something like that. That's why I was all like, I don't know what to do. But I was like, I could do it, and backfired, but it's okay. It's okay.
learning lesson, right?
Yes.
Right.
Very big learning.
You guys don't want to know some of the things that happened to me while I've been licensed. So I totally understand. Back to President Pham's question to you. One of the things that I would suggest is, I always tell my staff, if there's something that you're not comfortable with, we don't proceed. Because that means that you're lacking the knowledge and you're lacking the confidence to complete the service. And what you don't realize is that the consumer feels that also. So do yourself a favor, whichever route you go, whether you're doing chemicals, whether you're doing braiding, just think about it. If it's a service that you're uncomfortable with, I would definitely recommend that you
Don't do it.
pass on it and then gain the knowledge that you need to make sure that everyone has a very pleasant experience.
Okay.
And thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Ms. Bell?
Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you for your presentation. I think it was very well spoken and I really understand. And I'm sorry what happened to you. We've all been new practitioners. And I think one thing you learn with time and experience and wisdom is you just take your time. You pause, you take your time. If you don't know how to proceed, you just tell the client that you need a moment. If you have to Google something, we all do. People take different medications that you might not be aware of. You Google it, you find out if it has a contraindication and move forward. So I think you've demonstrated that you understand that today, and mentorship is important in our industry. So I applaud those that stepped up for you and said that they're going to work with you. It's so important. So reach out and make those mentorships happen and just take pause when you need to. And that shows professionalism. So no questions for me, but thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Any questions, Mr. Bertram?
No questions.
Thank you, everyone. Ms. Bright, any further questions?
No, Your Honor.
All right. And because, well, this is your testimony, Ms. Bullock, anything you'd like to add at this time? That maybe the questions jogged your memory about something you'd like to tell us?
No, I'm fine.
All
No
right.
questions.
Okay. And let me just confirm again, no other witnesses you'd like to call at this time?
No.
All right. And you feel you've submitted everything that you wanted to submit in
Yes.
support of your petition?
Mhm.
All right. Okay. So I'm going to ask now let's move on to any last remarks. Ms. Bright, did you want to give any last remarks?
We just ask that you consider all the evidence and make the decision you feel is appropriate.
All right. And Ms. Bullock, any last remarks you'd like to give at this time?
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and say my piece.
All right, thank you. Now I'm going to ask in a moment whether the matter is submitted, and that phrase, the matter is submitted, is a term of art. So let me explain what it means first before I ask you the question. When I ask whether the matter is submitted, what I'm asking you is, do you feel that you've had a full opportunity to present the evidence that supports your position? And do you feel that you've had a full opportunity to make the best arguments to support your position? Does that explanation make sense to you, Ms. Bullock?
Yes.
Okay, so let me ask the question officially now. Is the matter submitted?
Yes.
All right, Ms. Bright?
Yes.
All right, thank you both. With the matter being submitted, the record is closed. What that means, Ms. Bullock, is that there will be no further evidence to be received at this time. The board will deliberate on your petition and issue a final decision at some point in the future. So you won't get that answer today.
Okay.
All right? And that concludes this proceeding, right, Ms. Bright? Nothing on your end?
Nothing more, Your Honor.
All right, with that, we are off the record in this proceeding.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Ramirez, do you need any clarifications or spellings? Okay, all right, thank you. Going, okay, all right. Right. All right, good morning, Ms. Lazark. All right, is yeah, go ahead. Feng Ti Tong here? All right, Ms. Tong, please take a seat. And we start in just a few minutes. All right. While Ms. Lozark is setting up, let me just talk to you for a moment, Ms. Tong, about this proceeding. And I apologize for being redundant. You may have already heard all of this, but I just want to make sure that we're on the same page. Let me make sure first, do you have an attorney with you, Ms. Tong? Okay, you have to make sure to speak into the microphone. I do not. I do not. All right, thank you for confirming. And I also want to confirm that you're aware that you could have retained an attorney at your own expense. Did you know that? Yes. Okay, and you're choosing to proceed on your own today? Yes, ma'am. Okay, all right. Okay,
And that way the court reporter.
okay. All right. So let me tell you about your other rights in this proceeding, including the right to an attorney, which we just discussed, and we'll go over it again. So if you have any questions, stop me at any time. You have other rights here as well. You have the right to call witnesses. Did you have other people you'd like to call today?
I do not.
Okay, that's fine. You have the right to cross-examine any witnesses brought by Ms. Lazark if she brought any. That just means you can question them.
Okay.
You have the right to testify on your own behalf, which is to speak to me and the board directly about your case. You have the right to submit documents, which I believe you have. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You also have the right to receive and review documents, and you have the right to make objections. On the note of objections, that just means that if you have a concern or an issue with something that you're hearing, just say objection, and we'll take a pause and discuss your concern. Okay, Ms. Tong?
Okay.
Okay. And we will discuss your concern, and then I will make a ruling on whether it's a legal objection. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. So let me tell you about the sequence of events of today for your hearing. We're here on your petition. And what that means is that you have the burden to prove that you are entitled to what you are asking for. And ordinarily, in a proceeding like this, the party with the burden presents the evidence first. But in this case, I'm going to ask Ms. Lazark to present first and you second. And that's just so that I and the board can understand the background and context of your licensure and what got you to now to this point where you're seeking reinstatement. Does that make sense, Ms. Tong?
Yes.
Okay. So although you're going to go second in your presentation, I just want to remind you, you still have the burden to prove that you should get what you're asking for. Okay. So keep that in mind.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Anything else on your end, Ms. Lazark, before we begin? Are you situated?
I am. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Ramirez, are we ready? All right. We are on the board, or on the record, excuse me, before the Board of Barbering and Cosmetology, Department of Consumer Affairs, in the matter of the petition for reinstatement of Blooming Couture Nails LLC and Feng T. Tong. The agency case number is 100-2020-016-685. And the OAH case number is 2025-010-591. Today is February 10th, 2025. The time is 10:40 a.m. This is the date and time set for the hearing in this matter, and we are appearing in person. My name is Patrice Huber. I'm an administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings, or OAH, and I am sitting with a quorum of this board. At this time, I'll take the appearances of the parties, starting with Ms. Lazark.
Deputy Attorney General Adriana Lazark, appearing on behalf of the people of the state of California, pursuant to Government Code Section 11522, and I am here to facilitate with fact-finding.
Thank you, Ms. Lazark. And Ms. Tong, would you please introduce yourself at this time?
Yes, my name is Fong Tong.
Please speak into the
My
microphone.
name is Fong Tong.
Thank you. All right, and we are being assisted by our court reporter, Ms. Leanne Ramirez. Her CSR number is 12039. All right, so just a few reminders before we begin. I know we just went over it, Ms. Tong. I just want to make sure that we're all reminded of it. You have the right to retain an attorney at your own expense. Let me confirm that you know that, right?
Yes.
Okay, and you are choosing to represent yourself today, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. You have other rights as well. We went over it previously. You have the right to call witnesses on your own behalf. You have the right to cross-examine any witnesses brought by Ms. Lazark. You have the right to testify or speak to me and the board directly about your case. You have the right to submit documents, which, as I understand, you have done. You have the right to receive and review documents, and you have the right to make objections. Do you have any questions so far, Ms. Tong?
No.
All right. So let me tell you about the sequence of events of your hearing. We are here on your petition for reinstatement, and what that means is that you have the burden to prove that you are entitled to get what you are asking for. And generally speaking, the person with that burden goes first in presenting the evidence. But I will ask Ms. Lazark to present first and then you second. And that's just so that I and the board can receive the background and context for your licensure so far and the reason now that we're here at this point where you're seeking reinstatement. Does that make sense, Ms. Tong? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Okay. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Lazark for her presentation.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have a total of 9 pre-marked exhibits for identification, starting with the first exhibit, which is the petition for reinstatement. and it was received by the board on December 28th, 2024. I am moving the petition into evidence.
All right, Ms. Tong, do you have the exhibits in front of you?
Yes.
Okay, so we're looking at Exhibit 1. Can you locate that in your packet?
Yes.
Was that a yes?
Yes.
Thank you. Do you have any objection or concern with Exhibit 1?
No.
All right, Exhibit 1 is admitted.
Thank you. Next in order is what's been pre-marked as Exhibit 2. These are the supporting documents that were provided by the petitioner along with her petition. And this includes a request for closure of her establishment, as well as a tracking number. And I move Exhibit 2 into evidence.
All right, Ms. Tong, we're looking at Exhibit 2. Can you locate that in your packet?
Yes.
All right, any objection to Exhibit 2?
No.
Exhibit 2 is admitted.
Next in order is what's been pre-marked as Exhibit 3. This is the hearing confirmation form that was sent to petitioner by the board on January 8th, 2025. And I am moving Exhibit 3 for jurisdictional purposes.
All right, Ms. Tong, we're looking at Exhibit 3. Are you able to locate it?
Yes.
All right, Exhibit 3 is being offered for jurisdictional purposes only. And let me explain what that means before I ask you whether you have a concern, okay?
Okay.
Is that okay, Ms. Tong? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So jurisdictional purposes means that if I accept Exhibit 3 to be part of the evidence, I would be looking at it for a limited purpose only. And that limited purpose is just to show me that a hearing was scheduled on your petition. Does that make sense, that explanation?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any concern with Exhibit 3 showing that a hearing was scheduled on your petition?
No.
All right, Exhibit 3 is admitted for jurisdictional purposes.
Thank you. Next in order is the notice of hearing that was mailed or served by the Attorney General's office on petitioner detailing the date and time of today's hearing. And I move Exhibit 4 for jurisdictional purposes.
All right, Ms. Tong, we're looking at Exhibit 4. Are you able to locate it? I see you're leafing through a lot of pages, but I want to make sure you have enough time to turn to the document that we're looking at. Do you need extra time?
No.
Okay. So we're looking at Exhibit 4. It's being offered for jurisdictional purposes, which is just to show us that a hearing was set for today on your petition. Do you have any objection to Exhibit 4 for jurisdictional purposes?
No.
All right, Exhibit 4 is so admitted.
Thank you. Next in order is what's been pre-marked as Exhibit 5. This is the license certification, and I move Exhibit 5 into evidence.
All right, Ms. Tong, we're looking at Exhibit 5. Do you have any objection to Exhibit 5?
No.
Exhibit 5 is admitted.
Thank you. Next in order is what's been pre-marked as Exhibit 6. This includes the default decision and order with the accusation that led to the revocation of petitioner's license, and I move Exhibit 6 into evidence.
Okay, Ms. Tong, we're looking at Exhibit 6. Are you able to find that in your packet?
Yes.
Do you have any objection or concern with Exhibit 6?
No, but the Exhibit 6 is what I never received.
Okay, well, when you testify, you can explain that to us.
Okay.
Okay, Exhibit 6 is admitted.
Thank you. Next in order is what's been pre-marked as Exhibit 7. These are the citation letters, two of them, one dated 2018 and the second dated 2022, and I move Exhibit 7 into evidence.
All right, we're looking at Exhibit 7 now, Ms. Tong. Are you able to follow along?
Yes.
All right, do you have any objection to Exhibit 7?
No.
All right, Exhibit 7 is admitted.
Thank you. Next in order is Exhibit 8. These are the letters to the establishment. I move Exhibit 8 into evidence.
All right, are you able to turn to Exhibit 8, Ms. Tong?
Yes.
Any objection to Exhibit 8?
No.
Exhibit 8 is admitted.
Thank you. And last in order is what's been pre-marked as Exhibit 9. This is the inspection reports, and I move Exhibit 9 into evidence.
We're looking at Exhibit 9, Ms. Tong. Are you able to follow along?
Yes.
All right, any objection to Exhibit 9?
No.
Exhibit 9 is admitted.
Nothing further, Your Honor, but I'd like to give a quick opening statement.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Petitioner has been licensed as a cosmetologist, license number KK 544045, since October 19th, 2012. On May 23rd, 2018, the board issued the first of 2 citations against petitioner's license. The amount of the fine was $1,050, and this amount remains unpaid. On March 30th, 2022, a second citation was issued to petitioner. The amount of the fine was $500, and this amount also remains unpaid. On February 14th, 2020, the board received a consumer complaint alleging unsanitary conditions at petitioner's establishment called Blooming Couture Nails, LLC. The complaint alleges that there was a duck on the premise and that the duck was defecating on the floors and nipping at the client's feet. Complaint, case number 2012-2687 was created on February 15th, 2020 by the board. On August 2nd, 2021, a letter requesting the hours of operation was mailed to petitioner's address of record pertaining to the consumer complaint for the unsanitary conditions. On February 4th, 2021, the board made the first of 5 attempts to inspect Blooming Couture Nails. The remaining 4 attempts were made on June 4th, 2021, July 10th, 2021, November 30th, 2021, and December 22nd, 2021. During each of these 6 attempts, or 5, attempts, the establishment Blooming Couture Nails was closed on call. On January 23rd, 2022, a letter addressing the operational status of the establishment was mailed to petitioner's address of record. On March 4th, 2022, the board conducted an inspection of Blooming Couture Nails. 2 violations were noted, specifically Business and Professions Code Section 7313 and 7317. May 18th, 2022, the board attempted one more inspection of Blooming Couture Nails. The establishment again was closed on call. 2 days later, May 20th, 2022, the board conducted an inspection of Blooming Couture Nails. The same 2 violations, 7313 and 7317, were noted. On September 19th, 2022, the case was referred to the Attorney General's for preparation of an accusation, which was filed on April 11th, 2023. A default decision in order for revocation of petitioner's cosmetologist license was entered on July 17th, 2023, which became effective August 17th, 2023. On December 30th, 2024, respondents submitted a petition for reinstatement, and the subject reinstatement case was created January 7th, 2025. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Lazark. Ms. Tong, it's now your turn to present your evidence. Did you want to testify or otherwise speak to me and the board directly about your case and explain your case to us?
Yes.
Okay, so I just wanted to remind you, well, let me swear you in first, so that we can consider what you say to be testimony. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you will give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
All right, you may put your hand down. Please state and spell your full name.
Fong Tong, Phuong. Last name is Tong.
All right, thank you, Ms. Tong. Now, I'll allow you to testify in what's called a narrative format, so it's not a question and answer for your part of it. Just speak to us directly about what you think we should know. I just do want to remind you that the board and I have the copy of the same packet that you have in front of you, so there's no need to repeat what's already in there, but if there's something you'd like to explain further, if there's something you'd like to highlight, this is the opportunity for that. Does that make sense, Ms. Tong?
Yes.
Okay. And when you're done testifying, you may receive questions from Ms. Lazark or from the board. So be prepared to get those questions after. Okay.
Okay.
Whenever you're ready, go ahead and start.
Okay. So, pretty much I did own the business.
Can you speak up, Ms.
Yes.
Tong?
So, I did own the business back in 2018, and it was first me and my mom working there. And as the years passed, I noticed that she kind of like not putting stuff back and not labeling and kind of like not herself. So every time the business get fined, it falls under me. And pretty much we found out that she pretty much had a silent stroke. and she was going through like a health condition where she slowly developed dementia and forgetting things. And so we decided to pretty much either sell or dissolve the business so I can take care of her and see what I can do to help her. So in August of 2018, that's when I took her back home to kind of like take her mind off of things and slowly get her health back together. And I pretty much gave up the business and left the country for, I would say, a couple months, about a month, and then came back and forth to help her. And when I came back and tried to take life back for myself, I noticed that my license status shows revoked. And with that, I emailed the state board communication and was wondering why it was revoked. And come to find out that the person I sold it to never really completed the transfer. So everything that I saw regarding the communication, I never received it. And so the what is that? The customer service rep gave me the tracking number, and the tracking number I punch in to see if it was ever received or what happened, and it shows that I never received it. So all these documents I was never aware of. So pretty much today is I'm trying to see what I can do to get the license back and see if I can try to pretty much work for us right now.
All right, thank you, Ms. Tong. Ms. Lazark, any questions?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. Ms. Tong, you became licensed October 19th, 2012 as a cosmetologist, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And also that same year in 2012, you filed an application for establishment license with the board for Blooming Couture Nails LLC, is that correct?
Yes.
And you were the sole manager for Blooming Couture Nails LLC?
Yes.
And the address of record that you provided to the board for the establishment Blooming Couture Nails was 710 Madison Street, Fairfield, California, 94533. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, Blooming Couture Nails became FTB suspended with the California Secretary of State as of March 1st, 2018. Is that right?
I think so.
Okay, but you kept operating that establishment past the date of its suspension. Is that correct?
Okay. I believe so. Yes.
And you kept operating that establishment without a license for multiple years after it became suspended. Is that right?
No.
In 2020, were you operating Blooming Couture Nails?
No.
Do you have anything to say regarding the consumer complaint that was received pertaining to Blooming Couture Nails and the duck on the premises defecating on the floor?
What month was that?
That was in 2020, February 14th.
No. I wasn't there.
Okay, where were you at that time in 2020?
I was actually taking care of my mom.
Now, you mentioned that you gave up the business and you left the country. When did you give up the business and leave the country?
I pretty much left the country around August, maybe the 8th. August 8th, before August, around August, I believe, yes.
Of what year?
Of 2018.
Okay, let's talk about the 2 citations that remain unpaid.
Okay.
And those are part of Exhibit 8. Okay, the first citation alleges various violations pertaining to the cleanliness of your business, specifically violations pertaining to public toilet requirements, display of license, disinfection of non-electric tools, disposal of tools and supplies that cannot be disinfected, storage and labeling of new supplies and disposable tools, cleaning, storage, and labeling procedures for neck or nail dusters and brushers, and storage of liquids, creams, waxes, etc., in clean, closed, and properly labeled containers. Now, you never addressed the citation, is that correct?
I remember sending the checkout with the citation, but not certify. Is it a check? No money order.
Okay, well, according to the board, this money remains outstanding as of today. Do you
Okay.
have a copy of that check that you sent?
I do not.
So let's talk about these allegations because you're, wanting to run a nail business, and these are fairly egregious allegations pertaining to the safety of consumers. What, if anything, have you done or will you do differently to address these cleanliness concerns if you were to have your license back?
If I were to have my license back, to label all, make sure everything is covered, label all the brushes, make sure the disinfectant area is pretty much to the state board standard, and pretty much just work on my own and not have other involved so I can't watch them.
Okay, and do you understand why these regulations are important for consumers'
Yes.
safety?
Yes,
And what is your understanding of that?
that consumer can be affected by diseases and contract infection if the tools is not correctly disinfected.
Okay, like staph infection, HIV, hepatitis, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, a second citation was issued in the amount of $500 on March 30th, 2022. Did you receive that citation?
No, ma'am.
And so that citation remains unpaid, is that correct?
From the documents, yes.
When's the last time that you practiced as a cosmetologist?
I haven't practiced since 2018.
Have you taken any courses since 2018 pertaining to cosmetology practices?
Yes, I have taken microblading and I have taken lash tech or certification.
Now, if you were to get your license back, would you again open up a nail salon or would you open up a different type of salon?
I would actually open a different type of salon,
And what type of salon would that be?
mainly focused on lashes and microblading.
When did you first become aware that a default order was entered against your license?
I believe roughly last year in the beginning or mid, I would say mid of last year. I think I called and also came down to the state board, I would say June-ish, or roughly June of last year.
So you did receive the default decision in order, is that correct?
No, I actually only found out when I log in trying to see the status of my license.
Have you reviewed the accusation, the underlying accusation that led to the revocation of your license?
I have. And so all the documentation that was provided is pretty much new to me. And I also actually went down to the Fairfield department to see if I can find out who the business owner is. And because I was not the name on the business owner, I can't get any information.
The business, what do you mean?
For the city to see who owned the business, to see what happened, because I'm pretty much not sure or aware of any of this inspection.
What, are you talking about Blooming Couture Nails?
Yes.
Isn't it true that you're the manager or you were the manager of Blooming Couture Nails?
Till 2018.
Correct. But Blooming Couture Nails, according to you, is no longer in practice. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is it your testimony that someone who you don't know has taken over the business?
I pretty much sold it to Kim Nguyen back in August 1st, 2018. And as soon as that was sold, I thought everything was transferred.
Did you provide any evidence in your petition packet of that transfer?
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, under the request for closure of establishment.
And what exhibit are you looking at?
Exhibit 2.
Okay, that's just the, oh, I'm sorry, what exhibit was she looking at? And that's exhibit 2. Okay, exhibit 2 is a request for closure of the establishment, correct?
Yes.
Do you have any statements from Kim Nguyen?
I do not.
Do you have any letters of reference or character letters that you've provided?
No, but I did try to call the phone number I had for Kim Nguyen, but it when I called the number, it said the phone number was disconnected.
Why haven't you provided any letters of recommendation or character letters?
I didn't know I can. I thought just providing the evidence that that I no longer own the business and that I didn't receive the documents was adequate.
Okay, I don't have anything further.
All right, thank you, Ms. Lazark. Let me just check with the board, Ms. Chong, if they have any questions. I'm going to start from my left this time. Mr. Bertram, any questions?
No questions.
Ms. Funk, any questions?
Hi, thank you for being here. Why do you want your cosmetology license back if you're doing lashes and microblading, neither of which are under our jurisdiction? Oh, they are? My apologies. Why do you want your cosmetology license back? What are you planning to do in your new salon with it?
I want to be able to, if the lash, if I'm not, what's this? If I'm not performing well with lash or microblading, I would want to have a different avenue on making incomes as well. So the more knowledge I get and more, what's this? More diverse I am, the more potential of income I can get.
And my other question was in regards to the money order. The outstanding balance is important in a resolution here. And so I would advise you to find a receipt of said money order if that happens so that we can take that into consideration. Thank you.
Vice President Fairley?
Hi. Okay. So you submitted for evidence under exhibit number 2. You submitted a request for closure of establishment. You see that?
Yes.
And your request for closure is dated August 1st, 2018.
Yes, ma'am.
Then you submitted the tracking numbers, tracking information that you sent this email, that you sent this. Is this regarding to the application for closure?
No, ma'am.
Okay, what is this tracking information for?
These were the tracking number that was provided by the, I think the rep I email stating that that it was the letter that I should receive was certified, return receipts, and the tracking number is what she gave me to make sure that if I received it. So when I typed this in, it shows that I never received it. It was sent back to Sacramento.
So this is your evidence that you were supposed to have received a letter
Yes.
from the state board? I'm just trying to clarify what the correlation between the two.
If I may.
Go ahead.
I believe this pertains, I'm assuming, to the accusation and the default order, because those came out in 2023, and so these are dated 2023.
Right. I wasn't for sure if it was mailed late and she was submitting a tracking information. Okay. So then my next question, you stated that you left and went back you left August 8th, 2018?
About around in the beginning of August.
Okay. So on April the 5th, 2018, when we did our initial inspection, and then again on May 23rd, 2018, we did a second inspection. This is where the violations were notated. So you were still in possession of the business before you left in May 8, 2018, correct?
Yes.
So in 2018, you were cited for public toilet requirements, display of license, tools, cleaning, basically sanitation and the safety of the consumer. Is that correct?
Yes, when the inspector came in, I did advise the inspector that the bathroom, there was a little cut in the bathroom because there was a plumbing issue. And so the plumber came, I believe, either the night, I think it's either like that evening, to cut open the wall to do the plumbing, but he didn't put it back. He was supposed to be back the next following day. And the next following day is when the inspection came in.
So you were operating a business under your license without an operating toilet
The toilet
or
was
bathroom?
The toilet was function.
Okay.
It's just the wall was open. Like a little piece of wall was open to fix the pipe.
Okay. Your license expired July 31st, 2018. And then your establishment license expired July 31st, 2018.
Yes.
Right. When did you actually sell the business?
I sold the business on August 1st, but the month of July, we weren't operating because I got the citation. And with the citation, I didn't want to open into somebody, everything is up to place first. Like posting up the license, making sure everything is disinfected and labeled. And that's when I found out that my mom had a stroke and dementia because she wasn't able to put things the right way.
So are you referring to the citation of May 23, 2018?
Yes, after that. After May is when we have to close, like kind of close the business down and make sure everything was labeled and up to par first before we reopen. And when I noticed her health wasn't great, so that's when I decided to sell the business.
Okay. So I'm asking these questions because on February 25th, 2020 was when we received the complaint about you, Ms. Tong, had a pet duck roaming freely in the business. This is why the initial call to go back out there happened.
I don't have a pet duck.
Did you have any animals inside of the space, inside of the business? A cat?
No.
Okay. So the complainant specifically named you as the person operating the business in 2020.
I don't know who that was.
Were you still the manager there at the time?
No, ma'am.
Were you doing nails at all at the time?
No.
I have no further questions.
Thank you. President Pham?
Thank you. Just a few questions. Thank you, Ms. Chong. Can you tell the board how you've been supporting yourself since 2018?
Yes, I have a what is that? A life insurance license that I sell life insurance here and there. I also took care of my mom, which I get what is that? Assistant for IHSS, and those are the two income.
So you're telling us that you have not practiced since 2018, and why not since 2018? Was it because your business closed?
Yeah, business closed. My mom was going through a lot of health issue. I had to take her back and forth, um, getting her what is that? Her doctor's appointments, and dealing with my mom. She's a little bit aggressive, and also hard to ask her to take medication, so it was kind of difficult.
So we've heard you speak about what happened in 2018, and my understanding of your testimony is that you sold the bit, or you got the citation, you tried to clean up, but at that time, for your mother's health reasons, you decided to sell the business. Can you speak? What I haven't heard is much about the citation itself from 2018. A lot of these we notice their second offense, third offense, fourth offense. So these are things that have been raised as concerns, health and safety concerns at your salon before. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so the shop has multiple tables. So those table weren't on my desk, it was on somebody else's desk. And one of those desks were my mom's desk. So I explained to her that the first time they came, it's because it's not labeled. And everything has to be labeled. So I labeled it for her, and everything was labeled. Everything was trying to, I pretty much tried to do, uh, fix the citation that was given the first time. And when I noticed that her table was not clean, I always have to tell her. That's when we got into an argument and confrontation, and I always have to watch over her. And I was wondering why, because she normally um, are really up to, how says, she's pretty much on top of it. But then I have her, and I have I think it was another worker there. So those citations were on their carts.
But you were the owner of the establishment?
Yes.
And you
And I
understood.
try to explain to them and try to ask them to make sure everything needs to be labeled. And I thought I already kind of like walked them through it and how to clean up. I also did put posters. I also um, pretty much, when I clean my cart, I ask them to come and clean with me so they'll know as well how to disinfect with, the EPA solutions, how long. The implement needs to be in a package. Everything needs to be labeled, but somehow, some way, it's just on their end is not clean. So it was a lot for me to kind of like watch over three of them, including myself, for one person.
And did that lead to your decision to sell the business?
Yeah, it was just overwhelming. It was too much. And me and my mom keep pretty much fighting over it. And for the other worker who doesn't speak a lot of English, I speak both language, but when I explain it to Long Nguyen, which is the other worker, he made it as if he know, but then he just kind of like not consistent with it. So I end up everything is pretty much on my head.
I see. Thank you, Ms. Tong. Nothing further for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Weeks, any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Dr. Jimenez, any questions?
No questions.
And Ms. Kavanaugh?
Hi, I just wanted to get a clarification. So you had 3 people that were working for you,
Was working with me, yes.
and the one that purchased the business, was that person working with you, or?
No.
Oh, okay. Because the only other thing I had was, I know on February 4th, 2021, when they tried to make an inspection, they called and the person said that the ownership of the salon had not changed. So that's the only other thing that I got confused on, and that was in 2021. So, but it wasn't you who answered, but it was someone else who said that the ownership was still under you.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. No, no further questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Lazark, any questions?
I do have one follow-up question, because Ms. Tong, what I'm hearing you saying is that it was hard for you to supervise 2 to 3 people under you,
Yes.
but yet you want to open another salon where you potentially may be a supervisor or be a manager at the salon. So what assurances can you give to this board and to the people of the state of California that you would, um, do things differently this time so that you don't place consumers at risk?
This time, if I were to open a salon, it would just be single. It would just be me who will be providing the service. At least I can be accountable for my own action.
No further
Nothing further.
questions? All right, thank you. Ms. Tong, any last remarks at this time? And did any of the questions maybe jog your memory? Something else you'd like to highlight at this time?
No, it's just when I try to call in for advice regarding the license, I was just getting the runaround. That's why I had to come down to get a little bit further notice.
All right, thank you, Ms. Tong. So let's move on now to closing arguments or last remarks. Ms. Lazark, did you want to make any?
No closing.
All right. Any last remarks,
No,
Ms.
ma'am.
Tong? All right. Thank you. So I'm going to ask a question now whether the matter is submitted, Ms. Tong, but let me first explain what that means before I ask you the question. When I ask, is the matter submitted? What I'm really asking you is, do you feel that you've had a full opportunity to present the evidence that best supports your position? And do you feel that you've had a full opportunity to make the best arguments to support your position? Does that explanation make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so let me ask the question now officially. Is the matter submitted?
Yes.
All right, and Ms. Lazark?
Submitted, Your Honor.
All right, thank you both. With the matter being submitted, the record is closed. What that means, Ms. Tong, is the board will not be receiving any further evidence at this point, and it will issue, after some deliberation, a final decision on your petition at some point in the future. So it will not be today that you'll find out what happens, okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you. Anything else before we end the proceeding, Ms. Lazark, on your end?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. With that, we are off the record. And let me just check, Ms. Ramirez, do you need any spellings? Ms. Tong, can you spell the name of the person you sold the business to?
Yes. It's Nguyen, Nguyen.
Was that it? All right, thank you. Thank you, everyone. And I'll turn it back over to President Pham.
Thank you so much. Okay, at this time, we're going to take a brief break and then move into closed session. The regular meeting will reconvene after we are complete with closed session. Thank you. Hi, good afternoon. Are we there? Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. We are reconvening our today's board meeting. Again, thank you everyone for your attendance. I just want to make some announcements. I want to congratulate our Vice President, Tanya Fairley, our Board Member, Dr. Yolanda Jimenez, and Board Member Steve Weeks on their reappointment to the board. We're so glad to continue to have you. And I would also like to welcome our new board member, Anthony Bertram, who is a barber. Thank you for joining us, Anthony. We're excited to have you. Okay. And with that, I'm going to move on to item number 4, board member updates. Are there any announcements that board members would like to make? And do this fast. Okay, not seeing any hands. Let's move on to agenda item number 5, DCA update. Do we have a guest speaker today? Yes. All right, I'm going to invite Deputy Director of Board Relations, Melissa Gear, up to the podium or the table.
Can you hear me?
Hello, good afternoon.
Thank you. Hello and good afternoon, President Pham, Vice President Farley, Executive Officer Underwood, and members of the board. I'm Melissa Gear, Deputy Director for Board and Bureau Relations. I appreciate the opportunity to share the Department of Consumer Affairs update this afternoon. I want to congratulate Steve Weeks, Tanya Fairley, and Yolanda Jimenez on their recent reappointment to the board and congratulate and welcome Anthony Bertram to the board. Thank you all for your committed service and to the board and for protecting California's consumers. I also want to thank Reese Isbell for serving on the board to protect California's consumers and send well wishes. Governor's Executive Order. On January 29th, 2025, Governor Newsom released Executive Order N-1525, providing quick recovery relief for local businesses by deferring renewal fees and waiving other fees for DCA licensees in the Los Angeles wildfire areas. Specific DCA provisions include DCA licensees whose licenses expire between January 1st and July 1st, 2025, will be granted a one-year extension to pay their renewal fee if their business or residence address is in certain zip codes impacted by the fires. Licensees will still need to renew their licenses, but their fees will be postponed for 1 year. In addition, duplicate or replacement licenses or wall certificates will be provided free of charge until January 7th, 2026, and delinquency fees are suspended until July 1st, 2025 for those in the impacted areas. DCA met with Board and Bureau leadership January 29th after the executive order was released by the governor and discussed the executive order and its implementation. DCA is providing messaging to the boards and bureaus for dissemination to the impacted licensees, as well as consistent messaging for use on all board and bureau websites. Additionally, we asked the boards and bureaus to share the executive order and fee deferral opportunity with stakeholders. We want to ensure this information is shared with as many as possible. In addition, DCA has a specific disaster help center webpage accessible at www.dca.ca.gov that includes information on the executive order, frequently asked questions, and other important resources that may be helpful as our licensees and survivors navigate the rebuilding process. DCA has also a dedicated toll-free number, 1-800-799-8314, and email cafires@dca.ca.gov, available for fire survivors needing assistance. Each DCA board and bureau website has been updated with information for individuals impacted by the fires. In addition, DCA's Office of Information Services, or DCA's IT team, has developed landing pages for all online databases, so those going through the renewal process will receive information regarding the fee deferral when they go to renew their licenses online. DCA has also provided each board and bureau a list of the impacted licensees based on the provided zip codes and is encouraging boards and bureaus to reach out to these licensees directly to inform them of the executive order and the relief available. We are grateful to the governor for this opportunity to assist our licensees in their time of unprecedented need. A special thank you to the DCA board and bureau leadership for their continued partnership and commitment to help survivors. DCA sincerely appreciates all the board and committee's efforts. Governor's 2025-26 proposed state budget. Governor Newsom released his proposed 2025-26 state budget on January 10th, which included 8 budget change proposals, or BCPs, for DCA's boards and bureaus. Additionally, DCA's vacancy reduction and government efficiency plans were approved by the Department of Finance and may be made official in the spring revisions. The governor remains committed to funding resources to address California's housing and homelessness crisis. Included in the governor's proposed budget is the creation of a dedicated California Housing and Homeless Agency. The Department of Consumer Affairs and other regulators currently under the Business and Consumer Services and Housing Agency would form a consumer protection agency. This is an extraordinary opportunity for DCA to better align with other consumer protection entities. As one consumer protection agency with a consumer protection agency secretary with the governor's cabinet, this is an exciting opportunity that will only strengthen our mission, momentum, and delivery of services to California. The governor's reorganization proposal will be reviewed by the nonpartisan Little Hoover Commission and the legislature in the spring. As more information is available, DCA will continue to keep board leadership updated. Form 700 filing changes effective January 1st, 2025. The governor signed AB 1170, which requires board members to now file their Form 700s electronically with the Fair Political Practice Commission, or FPPC, using the FPPC's electronic filing system. Effective on January 1st, 2025, DCA board members must file Form 700s through the FPPC's online system. Filings will no longer be filed via the NetFile portal that DCA members have been using for many years. Additionally, paper filings will not be accepted. The FPPC emailed all board members on January 2nd, 2025 with a link to the FPPC portal and login information. As a reminder, the annual Form 700 filing deadline is Tuesday, April 1st, 2025. Please contact Board and Bureau Relations with questions regarding the new requirements at memberrelations@dca.ca.gov. President's Training, February 19th, 2025. DCA invites presidents and vice presidents to attend our annual President's Training on February 19th, 2025 from 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. This virtual training is for board members who are new to the role of president or vice president and those who have served in the role for a year or more. The training will review the role of a board president, communication best practices with the executive officer and board members, as well as the president's administrative duties. It also includes a panel of prior board members who will share their knowledge and expertise and answer questions from attendees. Learning from each other is a large part of this training, and we look forward to seeing all presidents and vice presidents there. Please register online using DCA's Learning Management System, or LMS. And special note, I'd like to thank again Steve Weeks for his participation in our president's training this year, as well as Christy Underwood, who has volunteered her time yet again to do a wonderful testimony. So hopefully we'll see some of you on there as well. Board member orientation training, BMOT 2025 training dates. Save the date. Board member orientation, or BMOT, must be completed within 1 year of appointment and reappointment to the board. BMOT is a all-day virtual training that DCA will offer on March 26th, June 18th, and October 22nd. Please register for the first available date to be compliant. Board members can register for BMOT using DCA's Learning Management System, or LMS. Board and Bureau Relations Team. Finally, I wanted to provide an update regarding DCA's Board and Bureau Relations Team. Yvonne Durantes served as the Assistant Deputy Director of Board and Bureau Relations since October of 2022. On December 6th, the governor appointed Yvonne as the Assistant Deputy Director of Legislative and Government Affairs at the California Governor's Office of Emergency Services. Yvonne's last day at DCA was December 31st. We appreciate Yvonne's dedication to the board and bureau relations team, and we wish her well in her new role. And as I close, on behalf of the director, I would like to thank the board and staff for their hard work and partnership last year. We are excited about 2025 and the many opportunities that await us. Thank you for your dedicated service that protects California's consumers every day. I appreciate your time this morning and welcome any questions from the board.
Thank you, Deputy Director Gear, for the update and especially for highlighting the resources and relief available for individuals impacted by the wildfires. Are there any questions or comments from the other board members this time? Okay. It looks like there's nothing. Thank you so much. All right. Okay. As the last thing that I have the privilege of handling is the annual election of officers. So the way we're going to do it, we're going to take nominations for president and vice president, and then we'll consider them a slate if there's no objections. So we'll just do one motion once we have a nomination for president and vice president, and then we'll open up for public comment and then vote. All right. So at this time, do we have any nominations for our next president? All right, well, I'll start. I would like to nominate Vice President Tanya Fairley to serve as our incoming president. great. You need a second?
Yes.
Thank you. Do you need a second? Just a nomination. If you're doing a slate, you need to. Yeah, okay, great. All right, and are there any other nominations for the role of president? Okay, seeing none, let's move on to vice president. Are there any nominations for who will serve as our vice president?
I would like to nominate Kelly Funk as vice president.
Member Funk, do you accept the nomination?
I accept. Thank you.
Wonderful. All right, are there any other nominations for the role of vice president or any discussion? Okay, it looks like there's none. So at this time, can we get motion first, right? We need the actual motion. All right. Can we have someone make the motion for a slate where Tanya Fairley will serve as our president for the upcoming year and Kelly Funk will serve as our vice president? Okay. Member Weeks makes the motion. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Member Kavanaugh. Okay. At this time, we're going to open it up for public comment. Right. And as a reminder, we are limiting, we welcome your feedback. Thank you so much for being here, and your participation is so important in order to give everyone an opportunity to speak when they want to on the different agenda items. We will be limiting public comment to 3 minutes per individual per agenda item. All right. It looks like we do have a member of the public coming forward.
Hi, Fred Jones, Professional Beauty Federation. Just wanted to thank the outgoing president for her consummate professionalism, the way you conduct meetings, the way you deal with the public and your colleagues. You've been a phenomenal leader. Tanya, you got big shoes to fill. And good luck as vice president. Thank you for your service.
Thank you very much. Are there any other members of the public wishing to speak on this motion? Okay, seeing none, may we have a call a vote?
Hallie Mayfam,
Yes.
Tanya Fairley, Anthony Bertram, Kelly Funk,
Yes.
Dr. Yolanda Jimenez,
Yes.
Colette Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Steve Weeks.
I'd like, I'd like to place my vote with a quick comment on Tanya, and that is she's been extraordinarily helpful by giving all of her time to DRC. I mean, she's always there, she participates there, and that's really appreciated. But yes.
Motion carries.
Wonderful. Okay, and now I will pass the gavel. Absolutely.
I just wanted to say thank you for this honor. Thank you to the governor's office for their trust in me. Thank you to my board members. Thank you to the incredible staff that we work with. I care deeply about the safety of California's consumers and my own clients. I'm a practicing esthetician, so I'm proud to represent the estheticians. I'm proud to move us forward in an inspired but ethical manner, and I'm very honored for this position. Thank you, everybody.
I just want to say thank you. Kelly, you have been an amazing person to follow behind, and I appreciate all the direction and everything that you have contributed to the board. And to this board, it's been great. We've been together now. Well, we're in second term, some of us, so we won't say. But I appreciate it. As an industry member and a person who really believes in leadership and personal development, look forward to the opportunity to continue to serve. Thank you. Okay, up next, item number 8 on the agenda. I thought we were skipping. Oh. Item number 7, appointment of board members to standing committees. We will be skipping this and asking Chrissy to give us more detail.
Thank you. So the president has the authority to appoint people to committees. We've provided you with what committees are and what committees are already have standing people. So I ask each of you to contact me separately and let us know what you're interested in serving on, and then we'll go from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Chrissy, for that. Next up, item agenda number 8, review and possible approval of 2025 Board Member Guidelines and Procedures Manual. Chrissy, if you could please provide a review of this item, and we will need a motion to approve the guidelines.
Okay, so this is something we do at our first meeting every year. This is our board member guidelines. What has changed is all the new travel information. So that's pretty standard change that we make each year. However, we have added one very important section, and that is to allow the executive officer the authority to proceed with Section 100 regulations. And so Section 100 regulations are when the changes are grammatical in our regulations. It could be updating or reordering or renumbering. So basically something that doesn't have a substantial change, that we don't legally have to go through the full rulemaking process, because you all know how long that takes. We have done Section 100 with this board before, but it has been a very, very long time. I believe the board at the time made a motion. However, we thought it would be best to place this in the guidelines. So that is the one substantial change that would allow me the authority to move forward with Section 100s without coming to the board for those types of minor regulatory changes.
Can I make a statement? And this is a very minor item, but on the section, the record of meetings, recording of meetings on page 4, the third sentence reads, "The minutes and assignments of board directives shall be prepared by board staff." Can we also add under the direction of, since we farm that out to an outside contract, maybe under the direction of board staff? Minor. Okay, that's my only question.
Yep.
Do we have any more comments?
Hi, Kavanaugh. I motion to approve.
Is that with the amendment?
Yes, with the amendment.
I
you.
would second the motion.
At this time, do we have any public comment on agenda item number 8? Monica, we ask for a vote.
Tanya Fairley,
Yes.
Kelly Funk,
Yes.
Anthony Bertram,
Yes.
Dr. Yolanda Jimenez,
Yes.
Colette Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Hallie Mayfam,
Yes.
Steve Weeks.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. On to agenda item number 9, discussion and possible approval of the November 4th, 2024 board meeting minutes. Do we have any comments?
I move to approve the minutes from the meeting on November 4th, 2024.
And this is Member Pham. I second the motion.
At this time, do we have any public comment on agenda item number 9? No public comments? Okay, for a vote.
Tanya Fairley,
Yes.
Kelly Funk,
Yes.
Anthony Bertram,
Yes.
Dr. Yolanda Jimenez,
Yes.
Colette Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Hallie Mayfam,
Yes.
Steve Weeks.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. On to agenda item number 10, executive management reports. And Christine, there you go.
Here we go. All right. I will just review the items that are currently in your packets. We will start with our administration and operations report. It shows that we have one vacancy. That person started today, so we now have 0 vacancies in this unit. We have listed the training that that our staff has done, and then we've included our budget. I'm going to keep moving unless you have any questions. I knew you would.
Surprise, surprise. My question is just this, on that item 53404, consultant and professional fees on page 2.
Uh-huh.
We had projected 2,000,004, but we're reducing that by about 700,000. Was there something that we dropped or?
Can you repeat that one? Because you said 5304. I'm seeing
On
communication.
the page 2 of 35, under the operating expenses, about halfway down, we have a category for consultant and professional services.
And that includes our exams. That's one of the big bulk items that's in that line item. So it's just what the projection is. We take what has been spent in the current month and try to plan that all out for the year. Usually at the end of the year, they're pretty much standard. We stay pretty close to examining the same amount of people, give or take a few thousand every year. So it'll probably even out more as we go through the year.
But you have a pretty big differential between 2.4 and 1.7. I was wondering, did we drop something or?
No. Nope. It's just with our projections through. It's with probably an increase in examinations. Wouldn't you agree? What fees?
Yeah. Yeah. Our cost is less because it was projected. Okay, that's all my
I think you'll
questions.
see it even out. And you have a fee increase? Nope, sorry. Okay. Shall we move on?
Yes, I think he's explaining to Yolanda what he was looking at.
All right, moving on to on page 4, we have our licensing licensing exams and our disciplinary review committee report. You'll see that we have 0 vacancies in that unit, which is amazing. And so we've hired Linda Kingsbury, who I think is in the audience somewhere. There she is back there. She's our new licensing manager. And so we have no vacancies in that unit right now. We've listed our examination pass rates for 24-25. This is overall, so we'll get into the nitty-gritty about that in just a minute. We had a slower quarter for October through December. That's typical for our board. While we don't go down as too much at Christmas time, during the holidays, you definitely do see people not wanting to take their exams. So maybe scheduling it out a little bit farther than on those holidays. Next page, we should talk about, we have our statistics for our applications received. Again, it's usually a little bit slower of months through October and December due to the holidays. On page 7, we have our written exam results. The first page, we are talking about our overall exam results by language. So you can see that these exam rates, other than our Spanish pass rates, which we'll talk about in a minute, are definitely improving to what we've seen over the past couple of years. Our cosmetology, especially with and barbering, with the change in the hours a few years back, we can see that these exam results have now pretty much rebounded and are exactly where they have been historically, around the 70% for Cosmo and around 57-60% for barbering. And then the next page is just our manicuring, electrology, and hairstylist. And then on page 9, we are showing our pass rates by Educational background. So the first section is our first-time test takers and re-exam test takers by apprentices, and then out-of-country applicants, and then our traditional school program. So you can see, which we'll talk about in a little bit, the apprenticeship program, but you can see those numbers continue to be our lowest, with a total overall of 41% passing, with only 35% passing in the cosmetology area. Out of state, out of country, I'm sorry, that's just out of country, correct? Yes. Out of country, those tend to struggle sometimes as well, but are actually doing better than they have in the past. And then our school programs are actually doing very well. On the next page, we have it by educational background, but by language. And so we'll start off with the apprenticeship program. So you can see that the first section is our barbers. Our barbers have a 47% pass rate in English and a 40% pass rate in Spanish. And then in cosmetology, they had a 60% pass rate in English, but only an 18% pass rate in Spanish, which that is where the bulk of our applicants are coming from, is the Spanish speaking area. So 18% is very alarming. And we'll talk a little bit about that soon. Out of country schools, again, that's pretty standard for those pass rates. And then we have that by license type, by language for the next couple of pages till we get to page 12. This is our school programs. And we start off with our barber school programs. They're averaging around 63%. And cosmetologists averaging around 71%. So the schools are actually doing quite well in their pass rates, and have definitely rebounded from what we've seen in the past. All right, we'll move on to page 14 unless anyone has any questions. On page 14 is our licenses issued. So you can see we were a little less in this last quarter, which is because of the holidays. On page 15, we have our licenses issued, just a comparison over the last 5 years. So we've shown you fiscal years, of course, 24, 25 is not complete. So we'll see that grow over the next quarter. And then page 16, we have our total license population. So we stand today at 652,119 licenses. A lot. All right, moving to page 17 is our survey that we conduct at all renewal times. We received responses asking who's an independent contractor, who's an employee. To start out with, this question is what is applicable to the establishment. So this is establishment owners, and they're saying 45% are independent contractors. On the next page, 18, we received a little over 28,000 responses to our survey. So it indicates your employment identification, and you can see that of these responses, of the 28,000 plus, 35% are independent contractors, 23% are employees, 32% are actually not working in the industry anymore. So for whatever reason, but have active licenses and continue to renew it because this is done at renewal time. And then 8.64% are said they were also a salon owner. On the next page, it talks about their employment status. So you can see that a little over 8,000 are full-time practicing in California. Some are not working in the industry. And then really 31% are part-time practice in California, which is interesting. On page 20, it talks about those full-time workers. So those full-time workers, 38% of those full-time workers are employees, 40% are independent contractors, and 20% are salon owners. And then of the part-time employees, 30% are employees, 60% are independent contractors, and a little over 5% are salon owners. Any questions on any of that? All right, moving on to page 21. This is our disciplinary review committee statistics. There are currently 3 staff in DRC. We have no vacancies in that unit. Now, this is a moment in time, and some of you know we just had a big moment in time. We just had a hearing, was it just a week ago?
Last Tuesday, Monday,
Um,
Tuesday.
And we had a lot of appellants show up for our hearing. It was planned that way. We did have a lot of people scheduled, but it was very productive. Danielle was with us, who couldn't be here today at this meeting, so she had her first DRC, and we threw her in just guns blazing there. So thank you, Member Weeks and President Fairley, for your dedication to DRC. So these numbers are way down now because we did hear
150, not 3?
150
something?
something
Oh, eyes are
appeals.
crossed.
It was a lot. So thank you so much for that.
And can I just say to our everyone here and our new member, it would be in everyone's benefit to at least sit on DRC once. That way you get a broader understanding of what that entails, what we go through, and what the licensees they give you feedback on their visits and everything. So I would encourage all of you to at least try to participate at least once. I'm there all the time because I don't know, I just have to be there.
And just for clarification also as well, we should consider this. DRC stands for Disciplinary Review Committee. We do a lot of citation and fines in this industry. So a lot of people get kind of like a fix-it ticket, for lack of a better word, but an inspection could result, and often does, in a citation that has a fine. And the DRC is an informal process in front of 3 of our board members where they can discuss what happened during that inspection and why they don't think that the fine was deserved, or what they've done to fix the fine. All right, we will move on to page number 22 is our enforcement report. We do have 1 vacancy in that unit. It's currently being advertised. We have listed the complaint intake. Our last quarter, we received 1,314 complaints. On the next page, page 23, is our breakdown of the types of complaints we received. So 33% of those complaints are related to health and safety, and 46% are unlicensed activity. Next section is our Attorney General's office. We have sent more cases than normal, right, to the Attorney General's office. So we are seeing an uptick in that. So we have recently referred 37 cases to the Attorney General's office for formal discipline. So they go to the Attorney General for actual formal discipline. Next is our probation statistics. We currently have a total of 110 cases on probation. And then on page 24 is a breakdown, 24 and 25 is a breakdown of our enforcement statistics. All right, we will go ahead and move on to page 26. This is our schools inspections and cite and fine report. We have 21 in our inspections unit. This is our inspectors. It says we had 1 vacancy. Unfortunately, now we have 2. We did have 1 who left us. Our cite and fine unit says it has 4, and we have filled that 1 of those. So we have 3 vacancies in that position that we are currently recruiting for. We have information on our schools. We have 269 approved schools and 17 open cases. We've listed information on externs, for how many externs we have, number of schools participating, and the number of establishments that are participating. On page 27, we have our citations and our inspections statistics. And then on page 28, we have our citations statistics. On page 29, we have our request for payment notices. So you can see how many notices we sent out for payment notice number 1, 2, and 3, and then any that we have referred to collections. You see that large number of 237 that was referred to collections. That is because we have a new contract, correct? And so that there were people in the wind waiting for that to be processed. And so now we have a new contract. And so 237 people got referred to the collections agency. Referred to FTB, that is Franchise Tax Board, for when somebody is not paying their fines. Franchise Tax Board can do an intercept program. And then our last table there is our payment plans. So how many people who have requested to be put on a payment plan, how many we developed, and then the dollar amount of what we are looking at with payment plans. Any questions? Okay, we're going to keep going. All right, page number 30 is our outreach update. We are not providing you with 5 million pieces of paper to show you how much social media we've done. But if you are not watching our social media, I highly encourage you. Monica and Miranda, who's back in our office right now, are handling our social media, and they're doing a great job with lots of posts on that. We have listed, we will be attending the Premier Anaheim show on February 23rd and 24th. We've listed the listservs that we've sent out. So listservs is when we send out a mass emailing to everybody that we have an email address for. And then we've listed our social media. I do want to highlight that we have our we have launched our Vietnamese only Facebook page. So it is a Facebook page that is 100% in Vietnamese. We have done a video with our staff. We're very fortunate right now to have some Vietnamese speaking staff who also came from the industry before they came to work for us. So it works out great to be able to translate items in a way that the industry would translate it. So of course, it looks amazing to me. I don't understand what they're saying, but I have all the confidence in them. They did a great job. It was a video on AB5. So it was a video kind of just talking about what AB5 is, what happened January 1 when the manicurists lost their exemption, but it was all done in complete Vietnamese.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
One of the things I'm concerned about are the trade shows. And we see that through DRC by these people that come in that are cited by our inspector for the practice of medicine because they don't understand what the machine was, or they were usually missold by the machine by the representative of the company selling machines at the show. And I understand these are all private shows, and we can't, we don't have a lot of say there, but is there anything we can do? Maybe put out a bulletin about be careful when you're at these shows and come to us first before you go there, because these poor people are just getting ripped off.
Yep, we can definitely add that to social media and our website. And then while we will be there in person, we keep a sign on our table that says items at this show may not be within your scope of practice, so please ask us. And that's usually what we spend most of our time doing.
I was actually going to bring this up again because we talked about this at DRC. Is there a way we can actually have a standing poster or standing banner instead of what's on the table? Because people pass the table but look at banners. So I think that if we really want to grab the attention of, because everybody's not stopping, but people are visually seeing it, that says something to that extent that, check your scope of practice before you buy a machine, or check your scope of practice to make sure this tool is okay, because
we can try.
Okay.
We can try. DCA has an amazing team that makes us printed signs, and we can see if we can get something done that we can take down to Southern California with us. The budget is, we're still under a budget situation in California. So spending on like going out to bid and getting items, we can't do that. But I bet there's something DCA could probably do for us. So we'll work on that right away.
Okay, because I feel like if we are really, this DRC, I was just telling them, it was mind-blowing, as many DRCs as I sat on, to see the number of new cases with the machines and the tools. And to me, it makes it feel as if, well, we know that everybody doesn't go to the shows, but the message is getting lost in translation. And so I think that we can definitely do a better job at getting that information out.
And I understand that these shows are privately put on by different corporations, and I'm sure as our exposure gets larger, they're going to have more complaints on the floor from other vendors saying that don't let the board do this, or it's awkward. I don't know what the ultimate solution is going to be to that one, but it's criminal what's happening to these people.
I was just going to second and say how important this is, and I wonder if we could have this banner, if we get a banner made in out-of-state shows as well, like in Las Vegas, or would it only be California that we would be able to promote this? Okay. Okay. But I'm all for it. Any word we can get out to our licensee population about things that are not under scope of practice before they spend the money is what we want to strive to do. Yeah.
Is there any way, like, because I know we utilize social media, I don't know if it would cause any sort of repercussion, but some of the most common machines or something that are being sold to even put a photograph on our social media and say something like not in your scope, or is that
I would
not-
say no.
Okay.
Well, Sabina, would you agree? Like, yeah, it's just not what we can't really do because our law doesn't say you can't use the Morpheus 8 machine. I say Morpheus 8 because I know that's a practice of medicine machine. The law doesn't say that. The law says you can't conduct invasive procedures. You can't pierce the skin, no matter the depth. So we have to stick to what our laws say. And there's so many machines out there, and there are machines that do practice of medicine and do aesthetics perfectly acceptable. So it really comes down to what that machine is being used for. Now, there's some that we don't know. You can't pierce the skin. Our licensees cannot pierce the skin at any depth. So obviously microneedling's out, any type of needles are out. But when it comes to some of those aesthetic machines where they have different modalities on the machines, and we go, we have to look at what is the intended purpose for the consumer and what service was being performed. Okay, moving on to page 32. This is our strategic plan update. We are live, and Carrie's going to talk a little bit more in a minute about the mobile inspection application. And we are, of course, publishing our quarterly newsletter. Did something just come out, Allison? Okay, so we just came out with our most recent. We shrunk this down as well. We took off everything that was done. So we are only providing what we're still working on through our strategic plan, but we're doing quite well in getting through all of our goals and on our strategic plan to make that happen by 2027. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you so much, Christy, for that very detailed and quick overview of the of the report. Moving on, do we have any comments on the executive management report? Do we have any public comments on the executive management report? No public comments? Okay, moving on to item agenda number 11. Christy.
All right. So this is the report we have been talking about for quite some time, and we are finally getting to you a draft. And I want to emphasize that this is a draft report. So we will not be asking for a motion to approve as it is not ready. This is a report on the status of the apprentice program. As we just mentioned, the apprentice program has low passage rates. And we have been talking about the apprentice program for several years now on issues that we are finding, not to mention how many apprentices we just saw at our DRC hearing at our last meeting, where we just have a lot of issues surrounding the apprentice program. So I'm just going to go through this, and then I will turn it over to the board to discuss. And I want to preface this by the fact that we are going through sunset this year. This is the year we will be prepping our sunset report. So in these discussions that we're having with these items, it will be important to think about what we want to present as part of our sunset report for any changes. Sunset is our opportunity to go to the legislature and say, we need these legislative changes in our laws to make things better. So keeping that in mind as we move forward. So what we have found with the apprenticeship program is the extensive tuition and fees that are being charged by some of the apprenticeship programs. Anywhere from we found an average of about $7,000 in tuition that are being charged to be a barbering and cosmetology apprenticeship program. And then what we really started looking at it was that there's these tuition fees that are being charged. There's also a lot of fees that are being charged. A lot of fees that are being charged, and no one is passing the exam. So, or very high number fail the exam. We also have the newest issue that we have discovered is training facilities / academies. These are basically establishments that have been approved to offer related training. So every apprentice program has an aspect of related training, which is classroom training. And they are doing these at establishments, which is 100% fine. That is totally fine to do. The problem is they are, the sponsors appear to be franchising out their approval. So what we have found is close to 80 entities who are enrolling apprentices under their own business name. They are charging them, they're contracting with these potential apprentices, and they are charging them fees, and they are saying they're affiliated with a approved program. Most of the time we've talked to apprentices, they have no idea who the program sponsor is that was approved by both us and the Division of Apprenticeship Standards, excuse me. So this is a huge problem. These entities are mostly advertising through social media, and I believe they are a very high percentage of targeting Spanish-speaking individuals. So they are not approved. We have notified them they're not approved, and I'll get into that in a little bit. It's got on my soapbox there a second. We also have on-the-job training concerns. So as people who sit on DRC know, we often find apprentices working alone. That, of course, they are supposed to be completely supervised and be receiving training while they are in the salon. So we saw a lot of apprentices just at our most recent DRC of apprentices who are being taken advantage of, who are being put in salons as employees and not as apprentices to learn. We have funding concerns. There's a lot of funding available for apprenticeship program sponsors, as apprenticeships is a great tool for somebody to learn while they earn, as opposed to those who can't go to traditional school. So, there's a lot of federal and state funding that's available. That section is not completed in this. We will be discussing that in detail at our next board meeting. Wages and workers' compensation, we are having apprentices every day tell us that they are paid by commission only, that they are paid by service only. So they only get paid if they do a haircut, and then they are also completely telling us that they're being paid under the table. So an apprentice is supposed to be an employee of the salon, and so we are seeing that that is not happening as well. The overall success of the program, which I'll get into about in just a few minutes, and then of course the board dedicated resources. With the resources that we have to dedicate to this program, we are limited because we are having to pull people from other areas to handle the enormous amounts of issues that come up with the apprenticeship program. Okay, so oversight. I wanted to give you a little bit of the oversight. And oversight is sort of a strong word. I think that we think of oversight as one way, and others might think of it as another way, because there's not a real enforcement arm in some of these other entities, like what we consider enforcement in our board. So we have, of course, the board. We issue the license and we approve the sponsors. We have the Division of Apprenticeship Standards. They also approve the sponsors. They must be approved by the Division of Apprenticeship Standards before they can be approved by us. And the Division of Apprenticeship Standards also registers apprentices. So there's two different things. DAS registers apprentices. We license apprentices. So you have to have a license in this industry to be an apprentice. And then there are our local education authorities, our LEA, who play a role in the related training as what we talked about earlier. So the 230-ish hours that each barbers and cosmetologists are required to have. And because our law says you are required to be a division of apprenticeship standards approval through the state to get a license as an apprentice, each one of our program sponsors has to be affiliated with an LEA. All right, I'm going to go to page number 3 on the report. We only just found out that there's a federal program. We actually weren't aware that there was a federal program. And we have spoke to the Federal Department of Labor, and it's very interesting. Whether or not labor or federal programs should be accepted by us or not is something that the legislation would have to change, because our law says you have to be approved by DAS, and you have to and by way of that, you have to have an LEA. And then in order to qualify for the exam, an apprentice has to be affiliated with an approved program sponsor. So at this point, we don't accept federal programs because we have a license that must be issued, and that license has to come via an approved program sponsor by us. Okay, so we talked a little bit about the tuition and the fees. And then this is what we've been finding so far is an enrollment fee, a registration fee, attendance records fee. So basically, if you want a copy of your attendance records, they're going to charge you a fee. On the job training logs, which every apprentice needs to have for their 3,200 hours, they're being charged for copies of their logs. Tuition, late fees, and payment plans with interest and tuition. So they're contracting with these apprentices, charging interest on these loans, in a sense, of based on tuition. Penalty fees, we've had apprentices who were charged $200 for being out of their uniform on their day of related training. And then, of course, just general administrative fees and fines. Now, the DAS has a regulation that says you can charge, and that's not exactly what it says. I believe we have it quoted in here, that apprentices are being trained under a learn and earn model should not entail significant costs. No one defines significant cost, but a program that's $10,000, I would argue is a significant cost to even $7,000. We do have programs that might charge minor administration fees, which is perfectly acceptable. I will tell you, the majority are charging $5,000 to $10,000 to be an apprentice. I will move on to number 2. This is our passage rates, especially our Spanish test takers. Now, as 2 and 3 kind of go together. 3 is what we're talking about, these training facilities. And I mentioned that we have found that a lot of these training facilities are advertising only on social media, and they are advertising in Spanish. And so we have no idea what type of training our apprentices are getting. If you're a Spanish-speaking apprentice, we don't know if they have Spanish textbooks. We have no idea if they're given our translation guide that the examination company has prepared for us. We don't know, because again, they are contracting with students under their own business names. If we do an inspection, they're a licensed establishment with apprentices. So they might be acceptable as a licensed establishment. When the Bureau does an inspection, they say they're apprentice program. So they're not operating as a school, but they say they're operating as an affiliate or as a franchise of a approved program sponsor, which there is nothing in our laws that states they can do this. We have notified over 70 programs that this is not allowed, and we didn't receive any responses back. So going back to our pass rates, you can see that overall, from 2019 to 2024, our pass rates were 37% and 32% in the apprenticeship program. And then we broke out our Spanish pass rates. So our Spanish pass rates for 2024 alone are 29% for barbering and 22% for cosmetology. So that's 292 people for cosmetology, and 229 of them failed because they took the exam in Spanish and did not pass. So a 22% pass rate of our Spanish speaking individuals is alarming. And then we compared that to the non-Spanish examinations for 2024, and you can see they're a little better. They're still not great. Barbers are only at 44%, and cosmetologies are at 37%. So those pass rates still are not great, even for the non-Spanish, and that includes everybody that's non-Spanish. So of course we give our exams in English, Vietnamese, and Chinese, and Korean. Most of those were English test takers, though. Okay, so that's our issue. That's our second issue of areas that we've looked at. We feel there's lack of oversight of the related training and no instructor requirements. We have no idea who the instructors are. We don't have the authority to know who the instructors are. And that could be something that we put in our sunset report, that we might need more authority over that. No requirement for Spanish speaking students to be provided education in Spanish. So we have no idea if the bulk of these Spanish speakers are even being trained in Spanish. And no requirement for Spanish speaking students to have the Spanish approved textbooks. Now, we do know that there's only 2 textbook companies, both of them do come in Spanish. We don't know if the textbooks, because the exam is based on the textbooks, and we have no idea if these textbooks are being provided to apprentices or not. And then, of course, the worst issue that we believe we have found is the franchising out of the approval, which is our next item. And so I've talked plenty about that. I think I've made it clear what this issue is. But this is where we have 2024, we found 76 training facilities listed as related training locations, and 40% of those training facilities were enrolling people as they were their own approved program sponsor. They're advertising as approved program sponsors. And there are some training facilities, so I want to make sure I say this, that are doing everything correct. There are training facilities that are approved as related training, they're providing the related training, and they're doing the best that they can. But these are entities that are 100% advertising under their own business name, and we have, they are contracting with the students. We have copies of their contracts where there is no mention of the approved program sponsor, and they are charging thousands of dollars. Okay. Number 4, I talked a little bit about our on-the-job training concerns. Apprentices are left alone in the establishments providing services. There's no required on-the-job training logs that are available. We currently are having an issue with apprentices applying for the exam with incomplete completion forms. So it's required that the sponsor do a completion form. And on that completion form, they have to tell us all the hours that they've completed. So they have to, and the services. So they have to tell us how many haircuts you did and how many hours you spent in that area. And we're finding significant issues with those completion forms. So what we do is we ask for the on-the-job training logs, and most apprentices cannot provide those on-the-job training logs. So they don't exist. We've have an issue of the on-the-job training logs pre-filled out from years ago, like when they first started. We have all the on-the-job training logs completed at the very end of the 2 years. It's a 2-year program. So we have them where they're scrambling to complete those on-the-job training logs as they finish and are ready to take the exam. And then, of course, no supervision or training is actually being provided. And there's no requirements for trainers from us. The only requirement is that they hold a valid license and have no fines or discipline. So that's the only requirement for training. I often don't believe that the trainers in the establishments understand what they're even signing to do. I think that they are working to get somebody on to provide services to consumers, and they may not even know the true requirements, even though they sign an app and it says what their requirements are. I don't know that they fully understand that they are signing on to actually train someone and take them under their wing and be that person who trains them how to do things properly. All right, I'm going to skip over funding. We talked about that a little bit in the beginning, but there will be more to come on at the next board meeting. Wages and workers' compensation. I mentioned earlier, we have paid people telling us that they're being paid under the table, people telling us that they're only based on services, and establishments are supposed to have workers' compensation insurance to have an apprentice within there. And we are being told, we had recently one apprentice who was told to get their own workers' compensation insurance. So, and again, that's not a requirement of ours. So our inspectors, when they are in the field, we don't ask that question. We just know that it exists because, of course, the apprentices who want to complain about the program, they're coming to us. Next is the overall success of the program. So we thought this was really interesting, and we wanted to bring up what happens to all the apprentices that never even make it to the exam. And the numbers were actually larger than we thought. So you can see for barbers in 2021, we had 1,224 apprentice licenses issued, and 535 of them, 44%, never even applied for the exam. So they never completed that program. On the cosmetology side, in just 2021, I won't go through all the details, but we had 499 that applied. Is that correct? Yes. So 289. So 37% of cosmetologists in just 2021 never completed the program. Now, did they pay? That's the question that nobody knows. Did they pay a tuition and are just out that money because nobody can help them with that tuition? The Bureau for Private Post-Secondary has a mechanism. They have the Student Tuition Recovery Fund. If your school's closed, if something happens, they require a refund rate. There's no refund requirement for apprentices because the idea is that it shouldn't cost the apprentice any money. So why would they need a refund? So they are out that money. We've even been advised of one of these training facilities suing an apprentice because they did not pay their $6,000 tuition for a program that they will never get them anywhere, will never qualify them to take the exam. Board dedicated resources. The board must dedicate a lot of staff to this. We have 2 people in our licensing unit that spend 100% of their time on the apprentice application process. And the reason why that is so long is because of the very high number of apprentice applications that come to us deficient. So almost all, Addison, who's our enforcement chief, has been heading this team up. We can't get completed applications, missing signatures, missing addresses, just missing. And so that takes double the amount of work to process those applications for these apprentices, whether it's an apprentice license or they have completed their schooling or their program and are trying to apply for the examination. The majority of applications we receive are deficient, and we've tried lots of different ways to get this to not be deficient. We've tried color coding, we've tried various different mechanisms to try to get that application to be completed, and we just continue to get them deficient. We have a full-time special investigator that is handling investigations on apprenticeship programs and enforcement cases. So again, we are who people know. We are the state board who people are going to come to. So the apprentices come to us to complain. Rather it's about their education, rather it's about their salon environment. They're coming to us. We try to help them as much as we can, but we have a full-time special investigator who is dedicated to nothing but the apprenticeship program. And then I won't mention how much time Addison and Carrie and myself dedicate to this program because of the continued issues that I've just gone over that take a lot of our time. So I do have a conclusion. This really isn't a conclusion because, again, I tell you that this is a draft report. These conclusions are kind of thrown out here because we still don't have all the information. I can honestly tell you that every week something new comes up that we find, and we have to research and we have to figure out. We had no idea there were federal programs, and so we were able to talk to the federal government about that. And so there's still really a lot that we're learning on this, and we come up with a new complaint every week, and we come up with something that has happened that we have to look deeper into. But obviously we need change, and there are things we can do. There are things we could do under our own authority and regulations, but the board has to decide if they want to continue to redirect resources, because we get no money for any of this work. And by that, I mean, the only fee that is charged for an apprentice is a $25 exam fee. I'm sorry, application fee. So an apprentice has to pay $25 to get their application. Now that would be fine if that apprentice that's all they were paying, right? The $25 for their application fee. So that's to get the apprentice license. We do not receive approval of program sponsors is free. They don't have to renew. They exist out there with very limited enforcement. We have taken some action recently, but that's all costing us money as well. And so it's just, we could do regs, we could propose regs to this board. I would say that we should. But I also think that we need to look at the funding that this apprenticeship program is costing us, and address that with the legislature, perhaps during sunset. We need a lot more statutory authority. Apprenticeship programs, none of us have a law anywhere that say you can't charge more than $2,000 for administrative fees. So none of us have that. So we need, is that what we need? I mean, that's still up for discussion. That discussion may or may not be had at this meeting today. We may have an additional meeting where we spend a lot more time on apprenticeships, but I think we all agree, as we've all, most of us all have been talking about this for the last couple of years, that significant change needs to happen in the apprenticeship program to continue, because unfortunately these apprentices are being taken advantage of.
May I?
Done now.
Oh, thank you so much, Christy, for that that detailed information that is unofficially not complete. But having sat on DRC, and I will use this to add to what you hear as passion and trying to understand why this is so important. Having sat on DRC for the last 4 years, one of the biggest things that come to mind for me with the apprenticeship program is the fraud. And we didn't really touch on that. I know you didn't, but when you're sitting on DRC and you have someone in a program that is supposed to teach and train them and get them ready for the next step in their career, and they're telling you, we're looking at reports where the inspector went out and went to a salon and the person was there that got cited was an apprentice, and yet we get a school log that shows that the person was supposed to be in school, signed and dated. Happens more than we want to admit. And it just tells me, I'm a licensee, I'm a stylist, I'm a salon owner, I've been in the industry over 30 years. And it tells me that there is a big flaw in the program. And unless we really take the time out to decide on what that looks like and who the oversight is for this program, we're going to keep spinning our wheels. So I am highly for regulations and understanding and doing things that are going to either make the program effective or not. I think that when we are talking about people's future, we can't just be okay with the status quo when we know that it's not working. I know that on the fees, some of these schools, they have companies that they go through, a third-party company that the apprentice is paying the third-party company to go to the school. And as we saw in DRC, sometimes those fees are $7,000, $10,000. We had one tell us $20,000, I think, this last time that they paid for an apprenticeship program. Who is responsible for this oversight to make sure? And like you said, there's no law, right? So they say $2,500 for the program and then $18,000 in fees. I think we're defeating the purpose here of just allowing these types of things to continue to go on. We have to have clear direction on accountability. Like, who are we holding accountable for the paying them as a commission employee, for not carrying workers' comp, for not having the training and oversight in, for putting this additional responsibility on a department who is not equipped to handle that, but also receives no funding or no fees from the program overall. I think that the accountability piece has to be clearly defined and executed by all of the agencies that are a part of this. Christy, let me ask you, I know that you had been having meetings with the DAS, the LEAs, the board. Where are we at in moving towards having some additional resolutions for this program?
So we work very close with DAS, and they have been, I think they may be in the same position. I don't want to speak for DAS, but their law says you can't charge more than what's reasonable, but it doesn't define reasonable.
Mhm.
So that's definitely something that we hope that they are taking a stronger look at. We have met with all LEAs. In fact, there's one here today. And the communications we've had with LEAs have been great. Well, I should say most have been great. We met with one LEA who was fairly new and didn't realize really what they were getting involved in supporting these apprenticeship programs, which is not here. So we've shared pass rates with every LEA that is out there, and I want to say there's around 10 different LEAs throughout California that are working on this. And again, we have regular contact with the DAS, but it's really someone's laws need to change, to be honest, whether it's DAS, whether it's ours, and we take it on. We're going to need help from the legislature to change some laws.
Do you see the collaborative effort being across the board as far as suggestions, like making a minimum amount suggestions, like to whoever that is supposed to be to, right? So if we're looking at the tuition supposed to be free for the apprentice, but yes, administrative fees can be applied, do you see maybe the board suggesting to DAS like a guideline or something like that? Or is everyone saying everyone is on their own with determining your own fees?
No, I definitely think there's some room for suggestions in that direction. DAS has been quite responsive to us. They are aware of the issues. But DAS doesn't have enforcement. They don't have people out in the field. We have 4,000 apprentices right now. They're not inspecting establishments, making sure that there's workers' comp, so no one's checking.
So it also sounds like some responsibility needs to be shifted or resources added. So if that is a board thing, because we're always out there,
Right.
then the resources and the funding needs to be directed to make that happen. Right. Okay. I have no other questions.
And not only that, we need something done quickly. This report is very timely. I'm anxious to see the next one also, but my concern is that with our executive officer and our deputy executive officer spending the huge majority of their time dealing with this one issue, it's going to sometime bite us in the butt operationally because we don't have time to do that. So we're going to have to make some hard choices and, probably go to the legislators with this. It's and these garbage fees are ridiculous.
Right.
Are ridiculous. So there's much to look at here. But are we the only ones waving the red flag? Where is DAS on this? Are they concerned about what's happening? Are they doing anything at all to ease our burden in this?
I do think that the people that we talk to at the DAS, yes, I think that they are looking at ways to improve the program as well.
You think they would cooperate with us if there were some major changes made?
I think so.
My additional question is, what is the full responsibility of the LEAs? I know you said they're responsible for the pre-hours, but if they're responsible for the pre-hours, are they making sure that the pre-hours are actually completed? And what other additional responsibility does the LEA have?
So the LEA is over the related training. So it's the 260, no, I don't know why I can never remember the actual number, 230 hours of that type of education. And they do approve the related training centers as well.
So they don't have the follow-up responsibility for this training?
I don't know that. I don't know if during public comment they may enlighten us.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions?
I just wanted to add, I'm glad we're having this conversation because ever since I've joined the board, it's always been troubling to see the apprentice figure, the numbers, but also going to DRC. And I remember one person in particular, just how much they were taken advantage of, and just it's supposed to set them up for success, and they're young, and so this could set someone back significantly in their future. So I'm for any sort of regulation, taking it on, whatever we need to do, come up with something creative. So just want to add that.
I second. I just think this is just so upsetting of what is happening to the licensees. And I'm wondering if it would be possible when you're doing outreach at the colleges or at the trade shows to highlight the programs that are doing it appropriately. No, that's kind of like a sales pitch, I guess. I get that. Well, I'm all for anything we have to do to fast track this. If we have to have sub meetings in the next couple of months or whatever, I'm all for it because just so many red flags and problems. And if we need to officially ask for it to be added to the sunset review to gain authority over the apprentice instructors, then that's what I'd like to do.
Thank you, Christy, and everyone for your comments. We will now open this up for public comment. Just a reminder that everyone in public comment, you do have 3 minutes. So we ask that you get your points in and make it as brief as possible. So do we have any public comments?
My name is Don Simonich. I'm with the San Joaquin County Office of Education, and we are probably the largest provider of the LEA services through Barbering and Cosmetology programs in the state of California. Now, I really appreciate we've opened up a dialogue here within about the last 6-8 months with the board, the executive officer, and Addison, and this is great. I love this report. It really tells a whole bunch of things that we didn't even know about, and of course, now I got to tell you one thing here, a couple things. One is, I used to work for the Division of Apprenticeship Standards, so I'm kind of familiar with that side of the coin. Okay, I have never worked for the Department of Consumer Affairs, so I don't know what goes on here, but those other two agencies, LEAs, and I've worked a long time with these both. Anyway, so I kind of have a really clear understanding of apprenticeship. I just wanted to let you know that. I can tell you that I was here in Sacramento at the DAS when this was all brought on board in the 90s. They had the law, and then they were setting up the regulations. So who did they come to? They came to me. I was the only person there. They couldn't go to anybody else. So they came to me. I'm talking about staff, It's a different staff then than it is now, It was a long time ago. It was in the early 90s. So a lot of recommendations that I made at that particular time fell on deaf ears. Their attitude was, oh, well, we've been doing this and this for the last 100 years, that we're not going to change that. Okay, well, whatever. So there could have been some things that would have definitely straightened out things, such as that pre-apprentice training. And that seems to be a source of issues all along, because when it first started, it was everybody, it was charged out at about $300, and everything was going along nicely. Well, then everybody got the idea, hey, we can charge whatever the heck we want. Well, that's no good either, because once it hits that threshold of 2,500, over 2,500, then it falls under the oversight of the Bureau of Post-Secondary. Anyway, I tell you what, I am here for the apprentice. I am here to support you folks.
30 more seconds.
Pardon? Anyway, I will be more than happy, and our entire agency, the San Joaquin County Office of Education, be more than happy to work with staff to come up with some things. We were left out before, and it really was not a good situation. We could have nipped a lot of this stuff in the bud a long time ago. We knew what some of the issues were, but nobody bothered to try to help bring us into it. I'm telling you today that this needs to happen, and I agree with Kelly. You
It's
made
been 3
several very
minutes.
valid points there, and also you did too. Thank you so much for doing all that. I'm sorry I don't have a half an hour to spend with you, because I guarantee you I would.
We thank you. We will call you.
Madam President, members, Fred Jones again with Professional Beauty Federation. Just 30,000 feet above the air. I would recommend stakeholders get together and really hash this out. The apprenticeship program is a staple of Western civilization. It's employer mentors who train individuals. And once those individuals master the skills, they become journeymen. They're literally kicked out of the town so they don't compete with the employer mentor. And that's how the system developed for over 1,000 years. Then labor unions stepped into that. And because of labor union dues, they were able to financially support an apprenticeship program with the idea that it was an investment that this journeyman would continue to pay dues throughout their career. In our industry today, post early 90s, we've gone away from that W-2 unionized industry into independent contractors, booth renters, suite renters, et cetera. So structurally, this industry is not really connected to the history of an apprenticeship-like program. It's a difficult fit. What are the incentives? And so the program sponsors, they have to make their money once up front, because they're not going to get dues from these apprentices once they become full-fledged licensees. So those incentives are distorted. Then the regulators have different incentives and approaches to apprenticeships. And again, we don't really fit well as an industry within those other regulatory agencies. So when I talk about stakeholders, I mean private sector and regulators need to come together and hash this out and figure out this unique industry that, I will say, from a policy perspective, our state legislators want to reduce barriers to entry. They look at our school program as the biggest barrier, the costs and time. And so apprenticeship, in theory, is very attractive to our state policymakers.
30 seconds.
But they haven't figured out all of these challenges either. We as a nonprofit trade association, we're Switzerland. We support all ways of getting licensed, and we want to support those ways. But until we can figure out the problems and challenges, we're not going to really be able to solve the huge ongoing challenges we have. So we're committed to helping in any way we can. Thanks.
Thank you. Any more public comment?
I was sitting there and I wasn't gonna say nothing, but I just feel the apprenticeship program needs to talk with the industry. You know, there's no, when you have somebody come in and ask you to be a mentor for apprenticeship program, there's nothing that you give them to tell you what a mentor is supposed to do. There's no layout, there's no plan, there's no direction for the person who's supposed to be training. So if you don't have that, how can they enforce what they're getting over at the school for the theory hours if they don't know what's going on? So I feel like there's a miss in that area, that you guys need to call in stylists and owners and have a discussion with them on how they see it running and how you see it running, and come up with a plan that will work to actually train these people.
Thank you. Do we have any more public comment? No more public comment? Thank you.
So we'll have a more detailed report at our next board meeting, if not before.
Yeah, no. Thank you, Christy, for that. Now on to agenda item number 12, mobile inspection program, and we're going to turn this over to Carrie Harris.
I'll give you a little intro. What's supposed to happen? Yeah. Okay. I think scared me. I think we can see it on we'll be able to see it on the monitors as well. Okay. So our mobile inspection program is a project that we worked on with the Veterinary Medical Board and the Department of Technology to implement a mobile inspection program. So basically, it's creating an electronic inspection report. So our inspectors will be doing their inspection report via an iPad now, as opposed to a written triplicate paper document. And the inspection report will be emailed to the licensees and will include photographs of the violations right away. So this is a very ambitious program that I will tell you our Deputy Executive Officer, Carrie Harris, has been the lead on with Addison Beach, who, when he's not working on apprenticeships, he's working on this. And this, it's going to eliminate our paper inspection reports. It's the creation of their photo logs. So our inspectors, once they do all their pictures, they have to go home and upload all those pictures into what you have all seen who have served on DRC. So that's going to be all automated. It's going to mail the inspection reports to the office. So it's cutting back on what we do right now is we get all this paper in and we scan it and then we sort it out to staff for processing. So all of our counting, our scanning and saving is going to go away. And so we have implemented this with 3 individuals so far who have been kind of testing it in the field. We're just getting ready to do I think 5 more. And so we're easing into it because it is a huge change for everyone, not only for our inspectors, but also for how we get the information sent to us. And I will turn it over to Carrie. She's going to give us a demo on how it's actually going to work.
Okay. So what you're seeing now on your screen is our back office, and this is a test environment. So this is not real data. I'm just going to show you real quickly how we would request an inspection, and then I'll show you what the inspector sees on their iPad. So just real quickly, I would pick my establishment. I would enter my license number for the establishment I want inspected. I would click new inspection. And then I'm going to say this was a complaint inspection. And then we assign it to an inspector here. We note a start date. And then we pick our inspector that we want this to go to. And we select save. And then this will, after I pick my region, This will take about 5 or 10 minutes to get to the inspector's iPad. We can also enter notes for the inspector on what we would like them to do. I didn't show that, but that's part of the process. So once it gets to the inspector, this is what the inspector's queue will look like on their iPad. They have all the inspections that have been sent to them, and you can see they could be in various states of like where they're at in the process. This Nor Nail is saying it's completed. I have the AVL and a Spot Barbershop that are assigned, and then I have some that are in progress. Most of the time, the inspectors will go from assigned to completed. They won't stay in this in progress status, but because this is my test environment, I'm just playing around. I have quite a few that are in progress. But here's my greatest nails. And the inspector would go into that inspection, and then the site details of where it's located, what the license number is, what the status is, the expiration date will show for them. And then here's where they can enter who the owner or the operator is that they encounter during the inspection. And once an email is put here, this is the email that the inspection report will go to at the end of the inspection. Then the inspector can note all the details of the complaint. This is the inspection number, what type of visit it is, and this is a note that I had put in when I set this up to let the inspector know that the complaint alleges unlicensed activity, and please verify that the operators are licensed to provide the services that they're offering. Here they can put their site details. So the inspectors always note what day of the week they're at an establishment, how many stations there are, whether that be aesthetic rooms, mani stations, hair stations, foot spa basins, whether clients are in the shop or not, how many operators are present during the inspection, what types of services are being provided at the time of inspection, what the ownership type of the business is, whether or not they're using an interpreter, and if they were inspected by another inspector. They can note all of that information right from their iPad. Then they can move on to their checklist. And this is where we have listed in numerical order all of our business and professions codes and also our California Code of Regulations. And the inspectors can mark whether or not the establishment was compliant or non-compliant. This inspection here, I've already set up with a couple of non-compliant violations, and I'm going to show you real quick how an inspector would do that. So I have a photo for 981. Here, they would mark non-compliance, and then they would go back to their checklist. And by pressing the plus button, they can add a photo that they've taken of the violation. And then they can add a description. Usually the inspector will say like what station that was found at. So this was found at Manny Station and this is that person's license number. Then this way the owner will know after the inspection where this was found, whose station it was at. And so now it's marked that I have a non-compliance here and I have an attachment with my photo. Now, the inspector is not going to find violations of everything at the establishment, and we don't want them to have to press compliant for everything they're compliant with. So the inspectors can go here, and here they can mark everything that wasn't marked as non-compliant, compliant. So now the entire checklist is filled out, whether they had a violation or whether they didn't. And then they would select save, which is like the most important thing after anything you do, right? You don't want to lose your work. And then they can move on to the additional tab. And here they can make any comments they want for board staff. If they felt unsafe, they could make a note here. If somebody fled, they could give us additional information about that. So anything that we wouldn't want to put on our inspection report, but we need to know in the office can be put here. And then in the final actions section, we can get our signature of our licensee that was in charge or our owner. In this case, this was our owner. And this was at the facility. And then we would have them sign their name to show that they got it. And then we have supplemental reports that we can submit for practice of medicine, information like the inspectors fill out now. And then we also have the immediate suspension form on here that can be filled out if for some reason they had dirty foot spas and we needed to issue the immediate suspension. So those are not applicable for this inspection, the supplemental reports and the immediate inspection. So I'll mark them not applicable. And then here you'll see that I have marked non-compliant because they had some violations. And then you'll see here that my inspection report is going to be delivered via email. And I can select here for it to be automatically generated, which when I submit my inspection, it will be emailed to the owner or whoever's email address I put on that first place page. It also gets emailed to the inspectors so they know that the owner got the inspection report. And if I click on the, oh, I think I forgot to hit save. Hold on, let me go back because we want to make sure we get our signature on there. Oops. Hit save. There we go. And then I can give you a little view of what the inspection report looks like. There are still some tickets in to make some improvements, but here you'll see when the inspection date was, what time I started it, which was this morning because I was getting this ready. And now it's 1:47 in the afternoon. I used a Vietnamese interpreter. And then this is information about the establishment. And then all those things that I noted, how many SD stations there were, how many Manny stations there were, that all shows up on this report as well. And then you'll see here, it's been signed by Minnie Mouse, the owner of the salon. And then here you'll see that the following violations of board laws and regulations were observed. Please see the last page of the inspection report for direction. But we'll have our short description of the violation that was found and then our long description. So this educates our licensees on what violation was found. And then the photo is our proof and then also can help the licensees come into compliance because now they can see on their inspection report what the violation was and then what station it was at. Here I noted that. And then again, for the second violation, the short description and the long description, and then the photo. And then our violation that we just added today, which is 981, the short description, and then the long description. And then the inspector will also sign it, and the inspector's signature will show here at the bottom. And so that's then emailed to the licensee, to the inspector, and then it goes back into Breeze where we started for board staff to process in the office.
Very, very.
Okay.
As a establishment owner, I am so glad to see this because I hate all that paper. No, that's good.
Yeah, great job. This is so thorough, and I'm sure all the inspectors are excited. And when we first read this on the agenda, I thought you meant mobile operators. So in case anyone else thought that, yeah, we're talking for inspections for everyone. It will be done electronically now. Yeah, congrats, guys. Great work.
It's good. We're doing it in phases, like Christy was explaining. We did 217 inspections using this in November and December, which is when we first started. So that was quite a lot. And then we have some inspectors that are training now. So they're doing inspections the first few days of the week. And then they're taking those inspections and they're using them in our test environment so they can get comfortable using the iPad, how it works before they go in the field, right? And so we're hoping by the end of this month that those new staff will be using it in the field. And then next month, we're going to bring on some more staff. And then by the end of June, we're expecting all board inspectors and special investigators to be using this process. We'll always have the paper for backup. If for some reason their iPad goes out or if there's some problem, we'll always have that paper for backup. But by the end of this fiscal year, this should be our primary source for all inspections.
Thank you so much.
Carrie, Oh, yes, just a comment. The amount of data in this, like I'm just thinking from a programming point of view, is just incredible. I know that we received a grant in order to develop this.
Yes.
Is there any concern or how going forward when the grant money is gone, maintaining the equipment and all of that kind of long-term planning? What have we thoughts about that, or do you have anything you can share about that at this time?
Approximately $50,000 a year.
That is sounds very affordable, actually. For great, thank you.
It's clear also, looking at your presentation today, that this Carrie Harris should be prosecuted. She's apparently broken all of our regulations here. No, this is actually great stuff. Is there any way will it flow through into any way at all to DRC?
It's going to be interesting to see once we're fully up and running, what happens with DRC, because they're going to get those photos. We give them the photos at DRC and we give photos anytime anyone asks,
Right.
but now they're going to be getting them right away. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the number of appeals we receive.
You would expect some reduction because of that. Yeah, interesting.
That was actually going to be my question, because they will already have them. So instead of them appealing on a blind side, they will actually have the information there and just probably, okay, well, that's mine and here's the fees. Okay, thank you. Do we have any more questions or comments?
I just have another comment. As an industry member, I love it. And I like that it's electronic and I like that there's pictures on it. I think that's fantastic. So really good job.
Thank you. Do we have any
It's taken a village. I moved out.
She was like, you're on this ship all by yourself. Do we have any public comment? No public comment. In the interest of time, we are going to give our board members a 10-minute break. If we can do 7, that would be great. That means we will be back right at 2 o'clock. Okay, thank you. Okay, now that we are back, we are going to go ahead and move to agenda item number 13. And we're going to have Christy go ahead and talk to us about the discussion and possible action on possible new items to be included in the 2026 Sunset Report.
All right. So we don't need to make a decision on this today. I wanted to provide the board with some background information. As I mentioned earlier, we are going through the sunset process this year. This is when we will be developing our report. For those of you that have been here for a while, it's a or who are new, it's a very large report. So all those committee meetings we talked about earlier, we'll probably be scaling back some because we have so much to do for sunset. And so what we did in this agenda item is looked at new issues for sunset. Again, this is the sunset report we provide this very extensive report of what we've done for the last 5 years of when we went through the sunset review. And it's our opportunity to make recommendations or requests for legislative changes. It's also the opportunity for the Senate and the Assembly Business and Professions Committees to come to us with questions, and we'll go through this whole process. So this process is going to be going on, and we'll be looking at a sunset hearing early next year, but it will take us all year to prepare this full report. One of the areas that we do is new issues for the sunset report. That's actually a section of the report. So what we did here was we went back to last sunset report and we went through each of the new issues and we provided an update for where we are. So I'm just going to run through these fairly quickly. Board composition, that's when we went from 9 members to 13 members and ensuring that we have a member of each one of our licensing categories. So that's completely resolved. Regulations process and the legal regulations unit. That was a question we were asked by the Sunset Review committees on how the regulations unit is going with us. I have flagged this as resolved. We have Christy, who is in our front row. She's our ledge counsel and does more for us than
any legal counsel probably should. So thank you, Christy. We had personnel flexibility. This was something that we asked for an update to our statutes to make it easier to reclass certain positions. So that's resolved. Medical practice, we asked to strengthen 7320 practice of medicine. That change was that you cannot practice medicine in our licensees, or you can't offer to practice medicine. So advertising practice of medicine devices. So that is resolved. School oversight is not resolved. We're going to talk a little bit about that in a minute. AB5 was partially resolved. Scope of practice, we got changes to the esthetician scope of practice for the first time in many, many years. So that's resolved. Exams, this was, of course, in our last sunset was when the practical exam went away. So that is resolved. Our licensure for endorsement, that was resolved. But as you all know, it needs a little bit of cleanup. That's the issue that we have where certifications aren't coming in. And we might need to ask for a little bit more cleanup on how we approve people coming in from out of state. Apprenticeship, I don't think we need to belabor that anymore. And then, of course, our personal service permit, which we finally implemented some time ago, which is resolved. Our mobile units, we had great legislative language cleanup for our mobile units to make that a little easier for people to actually implement that business model. Citations is something we are still working on. That is in process with our enforcement committee. Licensees in charge was not resolved, and I'll talk about that in 1 second. And then mandatory inspection for new establishments. We eliminated the mandatory inspection for a brand new establishment based on the fact that brand new establishments usually are clean. And so not really
Well, I don't
needed.
know about that, Christy. No.
Usually. Okay, so I'm going to go into the areas for discussion. Number 1, school oversight. We continue to struggle with school oversight. We share oversight with the Bureau of Private Post-Secondary. We do our work on schools for free. I have put in this memo the fee schedule that schools do have to pay to get approved by the Bureau of Private Post-Secondary, which is a lot. And I certainly don't want to, add more to businesses. However, we spend a lot of time on schools and we provide a lot of information to schools. The board provides pass and fail rates on a quarterly basis to our schools. It's actually an extensive process that we have to go through. We handle complaints. We handle the health and safety complaints. And the schools do not have a fee for us. They do not pay an application fee. So a new school that comes to us gets approved for free. And they don't have to renew. And so it's just, in my opinion, it's another unfunded, we had to pull staff from somewhere else. Now, this is not as extensive as the apprenticeship program. We have 1 staff that does do that, but our inspectors do inspect schools as well. We get complaints from consumers on clinic floors for schools, and we will have to go do an inspection at the school. So there's no funding that's allocated for schools. We do not charge a fee. I would highly recommend we ask for that again as in sunset review, and we bring that issue up. Number 2 is the impact of AB5. As we all know, AB5, well, not all of us, sorry, I keep forgetting it's you're like old school to me. AB5 was a bill that I would mess it up, so I'm not going to say exactly what AB5 did, but as of January 1, manicurists lost their exemption and basically had to become employees. They could not serve as independent contractors. They were exempt from the ABC test of how you determine if you're an independent contractor or not. It's not our law, as I've said many times. It is the labor law where this issue resides. However, at our November 4th meeting, the board did vote unanimously to make a policy statement that we believed all of our licensees should be treated equally and be considered, have the same opportunities for employment status. So my recommendation to the board is going to be that we include that policy statement as part of our final sunset report. Next is endorsement. We had legislative changes that allowed for license to license. We understand why this was made, and I personally agree with license to license. However, we are finding, unfortunately, some fraud in this area. So what we
what I would like to ask the legislature for is to require proof of licensure from where you actually took your exam. Because unfortunately, that is not told to us. So you may have had somebody who came into New York who might not require somebody coming from another country to retake an exam. And I think our board should license all of our California people have to take an exam. I think we should only do license to license for somebody who had successfully passed an exam.
I agree.
Number 4, again, apprenticeship program. We're probably going to have a lot of recommendations as we move through the sunset process for this. Number 5 is our administrative fines. Those of you who sit on the enforcement committee know we're working through that process. So we'll be setting up another meeting to finalize that and make that recommendation to the board on what we want to do with our administrative fines. Number 6 was our licensing in charge. So Business and Professions Code 7348 states that an establishment shall at all times be in charge of a person licensed pursuant to this chapter. What it didn't say is what does that really mean? Should it mean, and if I'm an owner that I've not gone to school and I don't hold a personal license, should they can they be the licensee in charge? Right now, yes, they can, because they are considered a licensee. So there is probably it's not clear. The language is not clear, and we should consider making it clear. During the last sunset, we stated that an establishment shall at all times be that barbering, cosmetology, aesthetics, manicuring, electrology, and/or hairstyling services be performed in the charge of a person, except an apprentice. They can't be in charge. A person licensed pursuant to this chapter means an individual who holds one of those licenses or an establishment license. So it's really just clarifying how we already operate today.
Yes, me again. There are 6 items here that you're looking at that could be included in the sunset review. Have you found that in these reviews, there's an optimum number we should have? Is asking for 6 things too many? Should we go down to 2 or 3? What have you found?
No, I think we asked for all of this last year, so
Okay.
I don't think so. I mean, we might not get it all. That's a given.
Sure.
But we should ask for what we want. Okay, and then lastly is my recommendations for brand new items that the board has talked about some of this before, adding limited liability companies into our statute to be clear that an establishment can be an LLC. And at that point, that's all our new issues that we have. Now, we don't need a motion on this today. This is because the board's going to have to approve the sunset report, and you'll be approving the sunset report probably more than once. So we're already working on it. We're going to be getting you a draft. This will be approved before the end of the year, because it will be due December. So there will be plenty of time for more discussion on any of these, and final language that will be in our sunset report that we can modify. But we did want to put this out there today if any of the board members had any concerns with the direction that we are going in our sunset report.
Any questions? On the licensee in charge, I like the way that it read in the sentence on the page 3 at the bottom, when it just says a licensee in charge must only be present when any of the board's regulated services are offered. I like the way that read, almost better than the listing out all of the barbering, cosmetology, aesthetics. I just feel like it reads a little more clear, if that's an option. Thank you. Any more questions? Nope. Okay.
Public comment.
Any public comment on item agenda number 13, sorry, number 13?
Good afternoon, Jamie Schrabeck, Precision Nails. It's not often that I get to share good news with you, but it's quite possible that we can move one of these items to the resolved category with your support. And that's because just today, a bill was introduced by Assemblyman Tree Ta that would grant manicurists a permanent exemption and allow them to become independent contractors once more. So based on your statement last meeting in November, I would expect your full support as this bill moves through the process. And additionally, we would hope that we would insist that hairstylists get added as well, because they're the newest license type, and they were not given an exemption because they didn't exist at the time. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes.
Fred Jones, Professional Beauty Federation. Just a couple quibbles with staff recommendations, and I mean it just two. Rather than charge beauty collegists more fees on top of the fees they're already paying to BPPE, which incidentally gets passed on to our students, and therefore their tuition gets increased. Just get BPP out of the job of oversight. You guys can take those fees. You guys have the knowledge of this industry. You're always the first call with any complaints from students. Let's just remove, what's the Geico? Let's remove the middleman. Get rid of BPPE oversight. Take those resources, get that statutory authority, continue doing the excellent job you've been doing for free, and protect our students and eventually protect our consumers. The other quibble, not a quibble, but on apprenticeships, there were recommendations in that excellent 7-page report on apprenticeships. I think it's kind of, we all agree to be determined what our policy recommendations will be, because we have plenty to add to the list of 3 or 4 that staff had included in that report. So thank you, and excellent work on this.
Thank you. Any more public comment? If no more public comment, we will now move to agenda item number 14, discussion and possible action regarding rulemaking proposals, and we'll turn it over to Christy.
Thanks. I'm going to move straight to the action items on this item. We have given you several updates on things that are still in process. I think you can read that on your own. So we're going to go to page 2 with the following regulation proposal received comments during the 45-day comment period. Just as an update, this is for our pre-apprentice training, which was put into law by SB 803 some years ago. And this, we went out for the 45-day comment period, and you will see in your packets the various comments and our recommended response to those. So we're going to need a couple of different items from the board today. You will see on page 3 that staff have action needed at the very top of that page. After reviewing of the attached comments and proposed responses to the comments, the board needs to consider the following actions. Option 1, which if you agree with our recommendation, because the staff is who prepared those comment responses. So if you agree with those responses, you would direct staff to proceed as recommended to reject the comments as specified and provide the responses to the comments as indicated in the meeting materials. Option 2 is if you do not agree with our staff's response. And then once you decide that, you will need to make a motion, and that has the recommendations at the bottom part of that page where motion A. So if you do agree with option 1 with our recommended comments, then motion A would apply. And I will actually turn it over to Christy right now to help me with this.
Good afternoon, Christy Shields, Regulations Counsel for the board. So there are 2 items to discuss. The first is just to review the comments and just determine how you want to respond to them. And once you've made that determination, choose one of the motions at the top of page 3. Once that action's been determined, then we'll move to the next item where we're going to talk about the text and what you want to do with the text that was noticed to the public. So first, just comments. We're just going to be looking at the 69 different comments that you got on this rulemaking and determine whether you agree with the proposed responses. And then we'll move to the next item. So if you have any questions, please let me know.
I'll start. So I reviewed the comments and the board's responses. I really appreciate the time that the licensees and students took to prepare the comments. But I would agree with staff's recommended responses. It seems like the main concern is the value that the pre-apprentice programs that exist are providing to students. When I read it, a lot of the things that were being highlighted, though, were things that I thought should be covered during
Like-
apprentice training.
Exactly.
So while it's wonderful that people that these programs are providing such excellent information to prepare students for apprenticeship programs, a lot of the things that are offered, again, it made sense to me that that should be on the job training as part of the apprenticeship and not a fee-based program. If the board feels comfortable providing it for 2 hours, which for free, which would be a significant lowering of a barrier to entry to the apprentice programs, I think that that will be a net benefit. And again, not to discount the incredible work that people have done to educate pre-apprentice or apprentice people who are applying for apprentice programs. So I would actually be of the opinion that I would support the board's responses and go forward with motion A.
I agree. I think that piggybacking on what you said, that again, we do respect and appreciate the responses and the comments, but sometimes we can be our own worst enemy when we are creating more barriers to cross T's and dot I's. So I would also move for option number 1.
I support option number 1 as well. Agree.
Go ahead.
If no one else wants to make a comment, then I'm comfortable with. Oh, am I jumping ahead, Christy? Okay, then I'm ready to
We'd
make the
prefer
motion.
you'd make a motion, then
Yes.
take public comment.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, so I move to direct staff to take all steps necessary to complete the rulemaking process.
I'm sorry, we're on option 1 at the top of page
The top
3.
one.
Oh,
So we first have
apologize.
to consider the comments and either accept or reject the
I see,
comments.
okay.
And then once that's done, then we can move to the next piece. You were just starting to read into the record.
All right,
so
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so the
The
option 1,
Mhm.
I would like to move to direct staff to proceed as recommended to reject comments as specified and provide the responses to the comments as indicated in the meeting materials.
I second. Now, we are now open for public comment on this agenda item. No public comment? Thank you. Okay, back to you, Christy.
So can you take a roll call vote? for
Oh,
that?
I'm sorry, roll call.
Sorry.
Okay, I have my notes. They're still, it's still flowing. It's still happening. All right, roll call. Monica?
I got you. Tanya Fairley,
Yes.
Kelly Funk,
Yes.
Anthony Bertram,
Yes.
Dr. Yolanda Jimenez.
Yes.
Colette Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Callie Mayfam,
Yes.
Steve Weeks.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Now back to you, Christy.
Okay, so as Ms. Underwood indicated, the second item for the pre-apprentice training rulemaking is to determine whether you want to proceed with the text as originally noticed. That's an attachment 2 with no changes. If you agree you don't need to make any changes at this point, then we would ask that you move motion A. And remember, this proposal was to implement your policy decision that you proffered at your 2018 Sunset Report, which is to remove barriers for licensure and to allow the board to administer this program. And so this is the program your staff has recommended. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay, if anyone doesn't want to have any additional comments, I would move to direct staff to take all steps necessary to complete the rulemaking process, including the filing of the final rulemaking package with the Office of Administrative Law, authorize the executive officer to make any non-substantive changes to the proposed regulation and the rulemaking documents, and adopt the proposed regulations as noticed for 16 CCR Section 917 as set forth in Attachment 2.
I second.
Great.
Now we're open for any public comment. No public comment? Thank you.
Tanya Fairley,
Yes.
Kelly Funk,
Yes.
Anthony Bertram,
Yes.
Dr. Yolanda Jimenez,
Yes.
Colette Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Callie Maypham,
Yes.
Steve Weeks.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, we have one more item under regulations to address. You can go past the next 60 pages. And you will get to agenda item 14F. This is our discussion and possible action on our previously proposed text and reauthorization of the initial rulemaking to amend section Title 16 CCR section 931 interpreters for licensing exams. So this is, the board has looked at this before when we decided to move interpreters from being being prevented from interpreting for an exam for 2 years to just 1 year. And Christy, would you mind giving an update on what we're doing?
So at our last meeting where we discussed this, the board generally supported the idea of lowering the number of years that they could be barred from participating as an interpreter from 2 years to 1 year. So we're simply going to be making that change to the text in the regulation and on the application for interpreter, so people are aware of what the limitations are for participating as an interpreter. And so you can see those in attachments 1 and 2. And if you have no questions about those changes, everything that's being changed is shown as in strikeout for things we're deleting and underline for things that we're adding. So you'll see like on page 1 of the proposed regulation sub D that we're changing it from 2 years to once per year. They're banned for participating more than once per year. And then the application is also attached. You can see where we're updating the ban from participating within the last 2 years to the last 12 months preceding the date of their signature on the application. So they're kind of simple changes, but because this is in regulation, we have to make them officially through a rulemaking process. And so we're bringing this back to you for your consideration. And if you have no changes, we ask that you move the motion on page, and I guess it's 2 of the memo. I'm not sure where it is in the electronic version, where it says recommended motion.
I move to rescind the board's prior motion on February 26, 2024, and instead approve the proposed regulatory text for Title 16, CCR Section 931, as set forth in attachments 1 and 2, and direct staff to submit the text to the Director of the Department of Consumer Affairs and the Business, Consumer Services, and Housing Agency for review. If the board does not receive any objections or adverse recommendations specifically directed at the proposed action or to the procedures followed by the board in proposing or adopting this action, authorize the executive officer to take all steps necessary to initiate the rulemaking process, make any non-substantive changes to the package, and set the matter for a hearing if requested. If no objections or adverse recommendations are received during the 45-day comment period and no hearing is requested, authorize the executive officer to take all steps necessary to complete the rulemaking and adopt the proposed regulations at section 931 as noticed.
You're welcome. Member Pham, I second.
Do we have any public comment on item agenda number 14F? No public comment. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. Roll call.
Tanya Fairley,
Yes.
Kelly Funk,
Yes.
Anthony Bertram,
Yes.
Dr. Yolanda Jimenez,
Yes.
Colette Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Callie Maypham,
Yes.
Steve Weeks.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
She's done, right? Okay. Number 15, right? Yes. Okay, so now we're on agenda item number 15, public comments on items not on the agenda. And again, we just ask that everyone limit their comments to 3 minutes. If we have anyone who has any public comments that are items that are not on the agenda. No? All right, there's no. All right, item agenda number 16, suggestions for any future agenda items. Yeah, no. All right.
Well, I have one, just a question. Can we arrive at a consensus as to what would be the best times for our meeting to start? Are we going to go to 9 or is it going to be 10?
10. I propose 10 a.m. Okay. Wait, yes, 10. I think the consensus is still 10. We've been doing 10 for a while. Was there something that wanted us to take it to 9 or something? No? No? Okay.
No, but if we're gonna start late and then not have a lunch, could we get a reminder to pack something?
I promise to take care of you, Yolanda. All right.
Just sorry, just to reference for the new bills that are coming through, are we going to have another legislative committee meeting, or when do we expect to see some of the new exciting things happening?
So far, there's nothing.
Oh.
But we will keep you posted. If we get something, we will certainly reach out. I'll be reaching out to all of you about committees regardless to get those established. And then we will go from there. So yes, I would, oftentimes they give us some grace on the year of sunset. So we might not see too much this year. But if something comes up, we'll certainly let you know and then we'll schedule a meeting.
Thank you, Chrissy.
And remember, those can be virtual.
If there is nothing else, I will say this meeting has been adjourned.